Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Market Open. It is Friday, December 19th. We're done. We're done for the week. It has been a crazy, wild week. S&P 500 relatively flat for the week. A lot of growth stocks flat as well. Some of them actually making a move like Tesla. Some of the other ones are red. But we are officially here towards the end of the week. And this is the second to last trading week that we have left of December. And so we are going to see how this plays out today. It is quad witching day, which means there's a record $7.1 trillion of options that will be expiring today. And so, I mean, honestly, it could be a nothing burger. It could be something that really doesn't matter. And the options could expire as normal and it's like just not that big of a deal. Or it could be something that's much more deeper. And, it could create a lot of wonky price action. So we're going to see what happens. We are green in the pre-markets, which is nice. We got a bunch of Oracle headlines from last night, which is good. We'll talk a bit more about the Japanese, which have officially raised their rates to the highest levels in 30 years. The Bank of Japan did increase rates. Again, the market doesn't care that much, and we'll see if the market ends up caring. Bitcoin, which did take a bit of a dump yesterday, is recovering a bit right here at 88,000. It was at, I think, 84 last night at some point. Nvidia's up about 1%. Broadcom's up 0.5%. Oracle's up, wow, I didn't know it was up 5%. Got 5%. There was some TikTok headlines we'll talk about last night that I ended up changing a little bit of the sentiment on Oracle. Amazon's up a little bit. CoreWeave up 5.6. They are joining the Genesis mission for AI, which a lot of companies are. So is Palantir and Nvidia. So I'm not sure why that would really help CoreWeave that much, but Street likes it. That's up 5%. Nike tanked earnings, and we'll discuss why. That's down 11. VG's up 1, and then the S&P 500 is up 0.14%. So not too bad of a week. We got a lot of different headlines that we'll talk about and go through in terms of what's playing out. Rocket Lab right there. Nice to see that back above 60, 1.62%. However, I think the biggest news of the morning, to be honest, when we talk about big news, we talk about things that we need to discuss. We need to talk about important headlines that captivate the attention of the masses. I think there's no better headline than this. From Bloomberg, a mysterious video stream shows up on the White House website. I don't know about you guys, but I kind of recognize that dude who's on the literal White House website with a banner that says, "This time I give Steve a link," which I think there's not that many people that know Steve and send him links other than our boy Matt Money. You must be kidding. You would think I'm kidding. This is from Bloomberg, and this is literally on the White House website. So then the next derivative question is, if this is real, how the hell did this happen? I don't have an answer. I called Steve. He doesn't have an answer. Matt Money has been mysterious all morning and has not given us an answer. The only thing we have from him is he said, "If I had known I would have been live for the world to see, I likely would have had a different message than personal finance. Let me meet the POTUS." It's not fake, guys. It's not fake. I don't know how he ended up on the White House website. I mean, if I had to guess, I would say the White House global news team probably embedded a link that ended up being the wrong link. But the question is, how did they even get his channel? Because in the title, he doesn't even have anything about finance or breaking news. It's like, "The time I gave Steve a link." It's not even enough that I think could trigger the the SEO of personal finance or global breaking news for that to end up coming onto the White House website. So I have no freaking clue. The best explanation is, yeah, Trump watches Matt. I feel like that's a better explanation of how this, I mean, the link just randomly appeared on their website. Like that explanation just sounds fake. So there it is, Mr. Matt Money. He is moving up in the world. It's Barron. Yeah, Barron probably watches and said, "You know what? We need to get this guy on the global stage. We need to make it happen." If Matt is in the chat, he will hopefully give us the real story. Honestly, Matt might not even know how the heck, but Matt definitely needs to send this to every single person he knows. Well, he's probably getting texted by every single person he knows already. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Palo Alto Networks and Google Cloud expand strategic partnership. That headline coming in right now. Palo Alto and Google up a little bit. They are extending their strategic partnership as of right now. Yeah, Matt's ex is definitely thinking she messed up. Matt's ex is definitely thinking she messed up. Is Matt Money the new Fed chair candidate? That's a broader question. Is Matt Money the new Fed chair candidate? You know, they're interviewing a lot of people. They started interviewing Waller, and it's not a lock for Hassett to win this thing. So maybe they're getting ready to interview Matt. I mean, realistically, maybe that's happening. All right, so if I get some more updates on how that ended up happening, I'll let you know. But I kind of like that it's a mystery, and maybe Matt Money will find out eventually and let us know. Speaking of new Fed chair candidates, Waller is in contention, which is really important to understand because it means that listening to the bond market more seriously about who potentially could be the next Fed chair. And here's an update on that. And then we'll get into some of the other AI headlines we have this morning.
In depth and how to jumpstart job creation. The interview took place in the president's residence and concluded shortly before the president stepped to the podium and addressed the nation on the economy on national television Wednesday night. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, Chief of Staff Susie Wall, and Deputy Chief of Staff Dan Scavino also attended the interview. It's a sign Waller's candidacy is being taken seriously, though the officials declined to say if he's the front runner or where he stood in the whole race for the Fed chair job. CNBC also learned BlackRock's Rick Rieder will be interviewed at Mar-a-Lago for the Fed chair job in the last week of the year. The official said that leaves 4 candidates, including NEC Director Kevin Hassett, the favorite for the job in the prediction markets, and former Fed Governor Kevin Warsh, who had been previously interviewed by the president. The officials added that Fed Governor and Vice Chair of Bank Supervision Michelle Bowman no longer being considered for the job. Now, the official said the conversation about jobs with Waller showed criticism was misplaced that the president was seeking a candidate based on the criteria that the next Fed chair would follow the president's orders on race. They said the president's interest in the interviews with candidates was broad-based across a series of economic issues. On a lighter note, the president was said to have been seriously impressed when informed that Governor Waller could bench press 350 pounds.
You know, you always bring us the details that matter, and that's no. I'm not saying that sarcastically. Like, those are like those little details that bring you inside the room.
I heard in awe was what I heard.
In awe.
In awe.
I mean, maybe Waller being able to bench press. I think Matt can bench press more than 350. So if the president cares about that, that's really the deciding and differentiating factor to determine if he's going to be able to control monetary policy in this country. Maybe that is the argument. So, yeah, I mean, look, it does seem like there's going to be a more competitive race for the Fed chair. Rate cut probabilities now in January are at 19.9%. Remember, we got an amazing CPI yesterday. Now, you could disagree with the way the CPI was calculated and have your own perspectives on that, but the market ultimately has to go with what they're seeing. And the CPI numbers that we got yesterday, even if they're off by 0.1% or 0.2%, they are still lower than what everyone expected. Even if this came in at like 2.8 or 2.9, this is still not bad. So that foundational element of inflation coming down, along with the labor market being weaker based on the jobs data we saw in November, 64,000 versus 50,000 expected, which was a beat, but still weak. Along with a more dovish Fed chair, that's your setup. That's your at least macro setup for 2026 of something being more productive. But we're really going to have to see who is this new Fed chair. It doesn't seem like it's a lock to be Hassett, especially if the bond market really wants someone that they think is more independent. Which, from Trump's perspective, if you get someone who's dovish but independent, that's probably better than getting someone who's perceived as loyal and dovish. The question here is, will Waller screw him, right? Will Waller end up not being dovish simply because of like an idiosyncratic concern? Which, given the interviews I've seen of Waller, no, I think Waller is going to call it like he sees it, but he just leans more towards like, let's be rational about what's happening and like focus on the stuff that's actually happening, not like some mystical concern we have. So I think Waller has a good shot. And if it happens, then we're going to see how the market ultimately is going to interpret it. Erwin said 415 had me beat. I hit 405 for a while. I mean, I can bench 500. So, if the president really wants a Fed chair, I have the qualifications that he needs, but maybe it's Matt Money. Maybe it's Matt Money. The story with Matt, for those that are still confused about it, is he ended up somehow on the White House website as his stream got somehow embedded into the live news part of the White House website. Matt Money is the news, baby. We'll probably have him calling on the close. He's at work right now, so we'll probably have him calling on the close, and we'll see how he's handling his newfound stardom at this point. Okay, so that was what we had with the Fed chair, quick update on Grab. I'm just seeing this right now. They acquired an AI robotics company. Grab stated that Inframove's robotic solutions will complement its existing first and last mile delivery network, potentially enabling more efficient and automated delivery processes. Grab sees Inframove solutions will be complementing its capabilities for deliveries. Founded in 2021, Inframove has launched a mixed road autonomous driving system and a range of hardware autonomous products, including a driver armchair, a fishing feeder, an armless delivery robot, and a single arm delivery robot. Okay. There you go. I mean, it seems like they're using their hoard of cash to really start putting investments into companies they think are going to lead the next evolution of ride hailing, deliveries, etc. And I mean, we have this in the city where you have these like autonomous things that work actually really well. I mean, literally, I see them crossing the street and traffic stops for them, or they stop for traffic, but they get your food to where they need to be. And so trying to implement something like that in Southeast Asia is not going to be easy. And so it looks like Grab is trying to enter that robotic space. Stock is not really moving too much off of that. Stock is, it's up about 1% pre-markets. So that's the news we have on Grab. S&P 500 right there, up about 0.16% as well. Okay, Oracle. Why is Oracle moving? They officially have acquired 45% of the new TikTok US venture. And the street likes it. The street likes it. That's up 5%. TikTok's going to be a massive, I mean, it's already a massive business. Oracle now controls the algorithm and the data infrastructure for how TikTok is being controlled in the United States. So this is something a lot of us forgot about. I mean, we've been so obsessed about their debt and their vendor financing and their credit default swaps that I personally forgot that Oracle and TikTok are even a thing, and that they actually did end up acquiring them. So the fact that that's happening is good. It actually shifts the narrative away just from their debt. It introduces a new business stream for them to be able to generate more revenue on, which is really, really important. And quite frankly, everyone's saying Oracle's free cash flow is negative. If this TikTok deal ends up not necessarily making their free cash flow positive, but at least giving them a new stream to generate revenue that's not just rooted in cloud computing, I don't think that's the worst thing in the world. And so alleviating at least some of the concerns this morning around Oracle.
That this is not a sale of the algorithm, that Oracle is only reviewing the algorithm, and so it cannot copy or steal it, that TikTok will remain 100% owned by ByteDance. And with that and the focus of that professor on how this is in line with Chinese law, as well as the fact that there is a closing date of January 22nd for this JV deal, suggests that the Chinese believe that this is going to go through.
Okay. We're seeing a proxy speak for the Chinese government. I think the key issue here is that.
So, I mean, it's bullish. It's a good thing that Oracle's getting it, and at least from their business perspective. And maybe the street ends up having a little bit of a mix in tune. I mean, the problem with the past couple of weeks, again, has been like you've had some good headlines, and then they've just been counteracted with bad headlines. So the Blue Owl Oracle headline, the Openai Oracle headline on the latest data center delay, which happened last week on Friday, that took the stock down from 210, and then they had earnings down to like 179 at one point. This thing helping them get a little bit more of that momentum back. If we get another negative data center play or data center headline, I mean, that could once again take it down. Now, where could that negative data center headline come from? It could come from Openai not having the money to be able to pay Oracle. But based on the news we got last night, feels like Openai is going to have the money. Openai now looking to raise at an $830 billion valuation. Yesterday, I said they were looking at $750 billion. That would be $100 billion. Today, it looks like that valuation is getting up to $830 billion. And the reason there might be some truth to this is because OpenAI is exploring sovereign wealth funds, many of them from the Middle East, to join this new funding round. We know that those funds are good for the money. And quite frankly, we know those funds that, I mean, they just don't have a lot of exposure to AI because they haven't been even able to buy NVIDIA chips for the past couple of years. This might be their way to finally participate in the upside of what AI might look like. Again, the bearish argument here is you think OpenAI is just ridiculous and they're raising money too fast and none of this makes any sense, and they don't have the demand to be able to fill all the supply they're promising for. The bullish argument is they have so much demand, and they have so much demand that's outstripping their supply that investors, when they're hearing the pitch and these sovereign wealth funds, are like, wait a second, you're saying if we give you this money, immediately you're going to use this money and turn this money into revenue? And not profits, but revenue. And I think Sam Altman's pitch is like, yeah, we're like, if you give us the money, we know exactly what to do with it. We are going to grow insanely fast. And if you give us a couple of years, we'll try to get a profit and we'll probably go public. at a $2 trillion valuation, and you'll get at least 2x out of us, which might be the argument for how they're ending up to get this valuation.
$130 billion. So we're getting close to the $1 trillion mark. The Wall Street Journal saying that the earliest fundraising round would be completed at the end of the first quarter of this coming year. And then OpenAI expected to draw in financing from sovereign wealth funds as well. Earlier in the week, the information reported that OpenAI had held early talks with investors about raising funds at a $750 billion valuation. So those numbers keep going up. Who did this? Are you responsible for this?
I did not.
Do I have to read this myself?
Well, actually, let me read this.
This is like
Okay, let me read this.
You can read it because I can't. I didn't know that some producer was going to do this to us.
All right. Well, this is something worth celebrating. We had the champagne already this morning when we were looking.
Okay, that is not about OpenAI, but yeah, that is the headline: 830 billion. So look, here's the thing. I think them able to get those types of people to get into the investment round and essentially agree that 830 billion is a reasonable price to pay. Whether or not you agree or disagree, it's bullish because at the end of the day, it means that there is a buyer that feels OpenAI is significantly undervalued and that they're going to be good for their commitments. It also means that all those chips they have to buy, all those data centers they have to build, all those gigawatts that they're trying to deploy at scale. I mean, if they get a fresh, they just raised 40 billion 5 months ago. So they get a fresh 110 billion. They now have 170 billion ready to be able to use for exactly this purpose, which I would imagine is not necessarily bearish for all the companies that ended up signing deals with them. So yeah, lots of money on the sidelines. We have 7.64 trillion on the sidelines. A lot of that money, by the way, missed the whole AI buildup and the revolution because a lot of people just felt it was fake. And now if it's undeniable that it's real, you might not want to buy NVIDIA at 4 trillion. You might want to buy OpenAI at 830 billion. And for all of us, whether you like Sam or not, we kind of need that trade to work. We need that company to survive. And I think that's why you're seeing a bit more momentum in these private fund rounds. So I honestly do think that some of the potential vibe shift we've had over the past couple of days, and we'll see if we can hold any level of momentum today into the close, is because OpenAI might be perceived as having the money, whereas 2 weeks ago, it became pretty obvious they don't have the money, and that's what kind of hurt Oracle, Broadcom, et cetera, over their earnings. Nike, it's down 11%. Why is Nike down 11%? A couple of reasons. Number one, the tariffs are continuing to be an impact. At least that's what they said on the call. Number two, China is not doing the best for Nike. So you've got China that's slacking. You've got gross margins that are down 330 basis points. They beat EPS by 40%, but EPS is still negative year over year. And then they're blaming tariffs as like a bigger issue for why they're just not being able to fulfill all the demand that they have.
They're facing.
Our order book is improving season on season. Through the sport offense, we're on our way in product. But as I've said, near-term investments to clean up and elevate the marketplace have put real pressures on margins. Tariffs have also obviously added a significant headwind to overcome. I want to state it very clearly. Margin expansion is a top priority for me and my leadership team. While it will take time, we see the path back to double-digit EBIT margins for Nike Inc.
Guide to a sale.
As soon as someone says, while it may take time, that's how you know it's going to take a lot more time. That's exactly what the PayPal CEO said on their earnings, and that stock immediately tanked. Because unfortunately, you know, that means the Wall Street has to wait, and there is an opportunity cost to waiting and sitting on dead money. So, like, yes, I'm wearing Nike today, but I would not buy this dip. I mean, look, I think Nike will be fine long term. Over the last 5 years, they're down 50%. The problem is, what is your bull case for them outside of like an emotional attachment that you may have to the brand? Because margins are down. The CEO just said it's going to take time. Tariffs, maybe tariffs get reversed and this is your tariff play. I mean, that could be the bull case, but if that happens and then Trump finds a different way to have tariffs, it's not like that's going to be fixed anytime soon. And then overall demand wasn't that amazing, maybe because there's newer brands that have captivated people's attention. So it just feels like in a tech revolution with NVIDIA trading at 24 times, betting on Nike here, outside of wanting something safe for the dividend, which it wasn't safe last night, falling 10%, the upside feels a bit limited. But if you're holding it, I don't know if you dump it here. I mean, like, it bottomed at 52 last year. It's at 58. So I mean, like, theoretically, could it get back to those levels? Yeah. But if you believe in the turnaround, then you believe in the turnaround. And you kind of let it play out. Young kids don't care about Nike. Yeah. I mean, I bought this like 2 years ago, guys. What I'm wearing right here, this is like old. So I think I bought another Nike hoodie a month ago, but it's not something where I go out of my way. I was just happened to be shopping and I was like, okay, I'll just get this hoodie. Like, I like the color. You know, it wasn't that deep of like, oh, there's a check mark there. I need to just do it and buy. It's like, I don't really care that much. So I think from that brand perspective, there might be a deeper issue. Again, there's just a lot of opportunities in the market. Broadcom gets below 300. If Oracle even gets anywhere near that 150 range, I think I get a lot more interested. Still at this level, I think the headlines are not the best with the debt. So I don't know if it easily gets back to 150. If Meta gets back to 640, which could happen easily, it could easily pump to 680 as well. Like these are way better opportunities than a Nike. SoFi here, I like SoFi here, 2640. I really do. I don't know if we see SoFi 30 end of year, but I think we see SoFi 30 early next year if January ends up being okay. Like, here's the thing. If we end up getting a Santa Claus rally over the next couple of weeks, we should see Hood back to 130. We should see SoFi back to at least 28 minimum. BM&R probably closing in on 40. Palantir is probably going to stay around this range. Maybe it pushes 195, but it probably stays 185 to 195. Rocket Lab should be pushing 65. Amazon should be pushing 235. Like if we get a legit 2 to 3% on the S&P, I mean, by end of year, we should get, Nvidia probably should get back to 195. But the question is, does the market have the like wherewithal to give us that? I don't know. Because every time we think it could, we get some headline or some type of rumor or some type of fear. And then it just becomes exhausting looking at the charts because the charts themselves are exhausted and they're not ready to give you that massive, massive premium, which is not like a massive premium towards valuation, but it is a premium that's needed to justify those all-time highs that we had again. Like for Hood to get to 150 again, it would take a lot. For Nvidia to get to 210 again, it would take a lot. Now I think Hood could get to 135. I think Nvidia can get to like 195. Like I think those things are achievable, but those new all-time highs by end of year, we would need a massive push to S&P 7,000, probably above 7,000. I put the green or red poll in the chat so people can vote on what we think. But we're gonna have to see by the end of the year how this ends up playing out, and hopefully it gives us a little bit of a run. I think the other thing we were talking about this yesterday. I think the market is looking for a 10% correction. The market is looking for an excuse to go down 10%. Just given the observance of these charts and the dynamics and how they try to find a reason to go up and then they get hit down and they fall for like stupid data center reasons. It's like the market wants to fall 10%, but there's not a legitimate. It would be the dumbest 10% correction if we see one in a while. November's 5% was more driven by the leverage, right? I guess I believe that was kind of the defining reason. And the whole Fed talk of we're not going to cut rates, which ended up being an absolute nothing burger because we obviously cut rates 9-3 vote in favor of it. But like if we had a 10% correction from here, which I feel like the market wants, why? The Fed is easing, you got a dovish Fed chair, earnings are fine. FedEx beat earnings by freaking 15%. And it's FedEx. It's not like they're supposed to beat earnings that well. They're down 3%, but they had a great earnings. Like you're not going to take the market down 10% on Oracle and Broadcom, which have already corrected 20 to 30%. So it's not like they're still trading at exuberant multiples. So I feel like the market wants the correction. I don't think it has a justification to give us the correction, which is why maybe we stagnate instead of having to move higher towards like that massive super bull case, 7,200 by end of year. So we're going to see. And we also have $7 trillion of options that are expiring today as well. Analysts and media types are running around with the box of needles looking for anything that is up so they can call a bubble. Today, they're attacking the data collection on CPI. Well, yeah, and that was a big talking point yesterday. Market seems to not care about those talking points. Market seems to like CPI. And I don't know, they're interpreting it as real, which is at least what matters for the perception of these equity prices. So Japan hiked the rates yesterday. Couple headlines on that. So far, I have not seen a meaningful impact in the 10-year bond yield. It's up a little bit, but not up enough to the point where I think people would be freaking out. They hiked it 25 bips for their interest rates. And here are some of the quotes from Japan. Bank of Japan, real interest rates are expected to remain at significantly low levels. Economy has recovered moderately, although some weakness is seen. We will continue to raise policy rate if economy prices move in line with forecasts. Their CPI was higher than expected. We will conduct monetary policy as appropriate from perspective of sustainability, stably achieving 2% inflation. Right now, they're at like 2.9%. Wage inflation likely to continue to rise moderately. Labor market conditions have continued to be tight. Corporate profits remain at high levels on whole. Even after the rate change, real interest rates remain deeply negative. They're right. Real interest rates in Japan are still very negative. The likelihood of realizing the baseline scenario has been rising as we will continue to monitor risks. So their overall interest rates are now at 0.75%. I mean, again, if you were going to engage, Chris was talking about this yesterday, there is no arbitrage within the yen anymore versus the USD. So the whole idea of a yen carry trade in of itself doesn't make that much sense. But, maybe we'll see the market react to this as investors wake up across the world. So it happened. I don't think it's that big of a deal. We will get through this one, but yeah, rates are now 0.75% in Japan. We are at 3.75, or 3.5, so we are significantly above where the Bank of Japan is. Bitcoin will dump at 10. It's dump, dude. Yesterday we saw it literally go up 3,000 and go down 3,000 within 10 minutes. So, yeah, I mean, maybe we do see it immediately get a little bit of weakness, but if that happens, it's just like, okay, we know that narrative's happening. It's hard to even attribute it to something, to like a headline, because we know it happens almost every day at this point, back and forth. And again, this is the Goldman Sachs piece on witching day. So 7.1 trillion are tied to expire today. These quarterly events occur when multiple derivatives expire simultaneously. Citi's analysis shows that volatility is usually lower than expected, with notable exceptions during the pandemic era trading surge. Last time witching day wasn't even that big of a deal. Goldman Sachs also said the same thing as Citi, which is that we don't expect anything that dramatic. But you do have a lot of options expiring today. Do people have options expiring today? I don't have any options expiring. I would imagine calls, puts across the board, given today is one of those last weeks of December. Yeah, I have nothing today. But it will be something that we look at. Yeah, this has eclipsed all prior records. This is 7.1 trillion. We've never had that much. I think the last one that was the highest was 4.8 trillion. So it's significantly higher in terms of the amount of options that are expiring. And so we're going to have to see. Bunch of covered calls. Well, this market's been decent this week for covered call, unless you're still in the money. I mean, nothing goes crazy. Should be able to get away with that. Yeah, 7.1 trillion, correct. Same amount of money in money market funds are expiring today. And again, it might have an impact, it might not, but that's something that we're going to see throughout the day. All right, Sam Altman and Google. So he did a new podcast yesterday, and he talked a bit more explicitly about Google. Let's listen to a little bit of this, and then we will keep going from there.
Different. When it comes to ChatGPT's ability to grow, if I'll just use Google as an example, if ChatGPT and Gemini are built on a model that feels similar for everyday uses, how big of a threat is the fact that Google has all these surfaces through which it can push out Gemini, whereas ChatGPT is fighting for every new user?
I think Google is still a huge threat. Extremely powerful company. If Google had really decided to take us seriously in 2023, let's say, we would have been in a really bad place. I think they would have just been able to smash us. But their AI effort at the time was kind of going in not quite the right direction. Product-wise, they didn't, they had their own code red at one point, but they didn't take it that seriously.
Everyone's doing code reds out here. Yeah.
And also Google has probably the greatest business model in the whole tech industry. And I think they will be slow to give that up. But bolting AI into web search, I may be wrong, maybe like drinking the Kool-Aid here. I don't think that'll work as well as reimagining the whole. This is actually a broader trend I think is interesting. Bolting AI onto the existing way of doing things, I don't think is going to work well as redesigning stuff in this sort of like AI first world. That's part of why we wanted to do the consumer devices in the first place, but it applies at many other levels. If you stick AI into a messaging app that's doing a nice job summarizing your messages and drafting responses for you, that is definitely a little better. But I don't think that's the end state. That is not the idea of you have this like really smart AI that is like acting as your agent, talking to everybody else's agent and figuring out when to bother you and not to bother you and how to, what decisions it can handle and when it needs to ask you. So similar things for search, similar things for like productivity suites. I suspect it always takes longer than you think, but I suspect we will see new products in the major categories that are just totally built around AI rather than bolting AI in. And I think this is a weakness of Google's, even though they have this huge distribution advantage.
Yeah, I've spoken with so many people about this question. When ChatGPT came out initially, I think it was Benedict Evans that suggested you might not want to put AI in Excel. You might want to just reimagine how you use Excel. And to me, in my mind, that was like you upload your numbers and then you talk to your numbers. But one of the things people have found as they've developed this stuff is there needs to be some sort of backend there. So is it that you sort of build the backend and then you interact with it with AI as if it's a new software program?
That's
And
kind
why
of what,
can't-
yeah, that's
why-
kind of what's happening.
Why wouldn't you then be able to just bolt it on top?
Yeah, I mean, you can bolt it on top, but I spend a lot of my day in various messaging apps, including email, including text, Slack, whatever. I think that's just the wrong interface. So you can bolt AI on top of those. And again, it's like a little bit better. But what I would rather do is just sort of like have the ability to say in the morning, here are the things I want to get done today. Here's what I'm worried about. Here's what I'm thinking about. Here's what I'd like to happen. I do not want to spend all day messaging people. I do not want you to summarize them. I do not want you to show me a bunch of drafts. Deal with everything you can. You know me, you know these people, you know what I want to get done. And then, like batch every couple of hours, updates to me if you need something. But
so he's talking about a more agentic way to understand the essentially workflows inside of these messaging apps versus just embedding a chat experience, but rather prompting and allowing the agents to independently and then autonomously take actions throughout the entire day. The problem is, I don't think anything he's saying is necessarily inconsistent with what Google's going to try to do or how Google's going to try to interact with the overall AI sector. I think the broader point from that podcast is where he said, I don't think AI and search ads are compatible. So his argument is that when Gemini starts putting ads in, it's not going to work. And I don't know if he's right about that, but that is going to be a pretty defining argument for if ChatGPT dies or lives. I mean, like at the end of the day, Google has not really monetized AI to their full potential outside of the cloud simply because they want to create a good user experience. And they're probably trying to get billions of people before they start putting ads in Gemini. My hunch is that ads in Gemini are going to work. It shouldn't be that complicated. But if Sam's like, that's just completely the wrong approach and ads are not going to work in that level, then it's going to be a debate between the sort of new consumer-facing the new consumer user interface that ChatGPT develops, or the new consumer hardware layer that ChatGPT develops to be able to interact with actually trying to like get things done throughout the day. And then there is some type of monetization component there. Also, Openai is exploring advertising. They were going to launch it a couple weeks ago, but then they had that whole code red thing because of Gemini 3. So it's not like they're opposed to ads. I guess they just have to have a really like good way of implementing them. But that will be the debate between Google and OpenAI. So we're going to see. We are going to see if that plays out. Obviously, investors are ready to give them another couple $100 billion. So they are thinking that whatever Sam Altman has planned up, this guy has raised more money than I've ever. I mean, this is pretty incredible, the amount of money that he's raised. But he has convinced people that this thing just is going to keep working. So over the next coming years, we will see if it ends up actually working. Do you think Google still wins in this race? I think Google has a way better shot given their distribution, but again, investors like the upside. By the way, Google's worth what, 3.4 trillion? OpenAI, let's just call them a trillion at this point, 830 billion, whatever. I mean, it's not like they're worth that much lower than Google. Yeah, the Google's a 3x above them, but it's not like Google's like a 15 or 10x above them like they were a couple years ago. So, and OpenAI does not do the type of revenue that Google does, or 100 billion in net income. So if I had to pick right now, OpenAI in the private market to Google in the public market, I think I'd buy Google stock and I just call it a day. I don't know if the upside is going to be as good as next year as it was this year, but that would be my idea. I watch more Amit on TV than I do anything else. What is going on with my life? YouTube, baby. That's how Google keeps you hooked. That is how YouTube keeps you freaking hooked. Amit, how's your Robinhood managed account doing? I think I'm up like 17%. Honestly, bro, and this is me being objective, okay? For all the people that say I'm never objective about Robinhood, which I really do feel I'm way more objective than people give me credit for. It's up 18%, but if you look at it from the period where they bought, it's pretty much matching the S&P. It hasn't really done anything. So they haven't impressed me here, because if I compare it to when I bought, which was May 9th, I mean, it's basically matching the S&P. So I'm like, if I was just going to match the S&P, then why are you guys taking an expense? This is the problem for fund managers. If you cannot beat the S&P, then why does it matter? Like, why did I just, it's only $1,000, but why did I give my $1,000 to Hood? Beat the S&P. If not, like, you're just like, this is pointless. All this money managing, they're giving me all these insights of like, we did this, we did that. It's like, you're not doing anything special. Like, you're literally just like throwing me an update every week about positions you're trimming and getting it into. Like, if you're not actually doing something that beats the index, why should? This is why I'm saying, this is why when we look at our year to dates, as long as you are beating the S&P, that's what matters, which is why it is insane when some of us put up 40% year to date, 70% year to date, 130. That stuff's not normal because it's so freaking hard to beat the S&P when you really think about it, because you have to live through all the drawdowns. You have to, you know, if you don't want to have those drawdowns, you have to time the selling, which is not easy to do. And if Robinhood's team can't do it, then like, yeah, it's not the easiest thing for everyone to do. So I'm not impressed by it. I mean, they haven't done anything that's super exciting. Like, they have to actually put up real performance for this to be important. But that means they also take more risk. That's the problem in the money management. They have to take more risk for them to definitively beat the S&P. And no one wants to take the risk, because then if they lose your money, you know, that feels worse than just like maintaining their benchmark. But that's where a fund manager actually shows they know what the hell they're doing, is if they can save your money and take the appropriate rate of risk, which is why it's a really tough business to be in. And if you don't perform, assets, they leave. People just pull their money out and go put it into something else. So yeah, I think it's a great product. It's just, it's not like it's done that much better than if I just put it into the index. Michelle says, amid Tanner, amid again, then Steve, Maddie, Tevis, and Roy. LOL, I'm here all day at this point. We've all got you suckered into our community. It's like Amit live, then Tanner, then Steve, then back to Amit, then Tanner again, then Tevis and Roy. It's kind of crazy. Then Matt comes up, and then, you know, Matt gets the nod from the White House. Matt, you got to get us on the White House as well. For those that missed it, Matt Money Stream was a mysterious video that appeared on the White House website today. Look at his face, dude. Look at him. Diamond Bitcoin 1, you are also on the website. You are in the chat. Ronnie Levine 1411, Dave 1533. You all made the chat on the White House. It's hilarious, bro. He figured it out. Matt figured out how to get his name out there. So I'm now trying to figure out how I can get on the White House website. We need Matt to get me there, Tanner there, Steve. We need him to get our streams. Dude, we get to be streamed in front of the country. That'd be fun. I can make my Sonic the Hedgehog jokes in front of the country. I mean, I gotta do it for the country. I gotta do that for the country here. All right, we got 7 minutes until the market opens. Red or green? 70% of you said green versus red. I think we go green as well, but again, we got that quad witching, so there just might be some weird price action that we have to get ready for if it happens. Yeah, 70-30 right now on the green red. Bank of Japan raised rates. No one cares too much. We'll see if it has any meaningful implication. Trump's going to be speaking at 1 p.m. on lowering the price of drugs once again. So that will be something that I guess we'll pay attention to, and we'll see what ends up happening there. So you have that Trump meeting at 1 p.m. DraftKings is expanding prediction markets in 38 states. So they are getting more into the prediction market game. I think they're just legitimizing everything that Robinhood, Kalshi, and Coinbase have done. So you're seeing DraftKings today officially launch their own prediction markets and get that going as well. Tesla to 500 today. Where's Tesla right now? Tesla is 488. What is a 500? That's like what, a 4% move? 2.4% move. Okay, so 2.4% to get Tesla to 500. I definitely wouldn't discount it. It just hasn't happened in history, so you would need that momentum to drive it there. I don't think you need a broad market rally for Tesla to move 2.4%. I think that could happen quick. So yeah, I mean, let's see. Pre-market's looking nice. Hopefully the pre-market's not a rug pull again. But pre-markets are looking right. CoreWeave, that's up 5%. Nike, that's up 9%, and they're down 9%. Then Nvidia, that is also up 1%. Here is Dan Ives' top 10 tech predictions of 2026, which I should probably do something like this as well towards the end of the year. But this is his analysis. Number one, tech stocks will be up over 20% in 2026. Tesla will successfully launch robotaxis and get to $600 in 30 cities is number two. Apple and Google will formally announce an AI partnership. I think that's definitely happening. Apple goes to $5 trillion in 2026. Wow, the best AI infrastructure acquisition candidate is Nebius in our view, and this company gets acquired by a hyperscaler in 2026 with Microsoft, Alphabet, and Amazon the buyers. I didn't know he was that bullish on Nebius. Holy. The best AI infra, I think he's right, by the way. I think the best AI infra company out there right now from a well-rounded perspective with amazing management, it's Nebius. Like, you don't have to deal with all the shit CoreWeave is great, but they have a lot of shit they have to deal with as well when it comes to Openai and their balance sheet and their debt. The other Bitcoin miners are, just not as diversified to me as Nebius. I agree with him right there. Cybersecurity sector is one of the best outperforming subsectors of the tech landscape, with CrowdStrike and Palo Alto leading. Oracle successfully built out its data center targets, starts to convert its massive RPO AI backlog, hits $250 a share. The Trump administration makes an equity investment in a quantum company, given the potential national security component. That would be a big deal. Microsoft hits its sweet spot in 2026 as more enterprises accelerate their AI strategic paths with Azure and Redmond. We see Microsoft as the top outperforming cloud. The godfather of AI, Jensen NVIDIA, continue to be the dominant AI chip in the world. 275 bull case for NVIDIA. Expand into the Chinese market. And then Palantir will expand its commercial AI success in 2026 with AIP to be one of the leaders of the software company on its way to $1 trillion valuation over the next 2 to 3 years. I don't think any of these are that unreasonable. I don't know if Tesla hits 600. I think it's very possible if they actually do expand to 30 cities. But if the launch is slow, then I just think the street might not give it that premium. But if everything Elon's been tweeting about makes you think the launch is going to be way faster than expected. Oracle back to 250, I also don't think is crazy. I don't want to take the risk of buying here, but if the street stops freaking out about their debt, like that thing could easily re-rate. And then Jensen, NVIDIA 275, Palantir continuing to hold its multiple, and if Palantir puts up 70% growth next year, like that premium is just going to get even stronger. And then NVIDIA obviously is already, we know, undervalued if you believe their growth multiples. Optimus would be the dark horse for Tesla. This year's been a dud for humanoid robotics. And I say that as someone who's invested in 2 of those robotic companies, but we really haven't seen massive progress from Figure or Apptronik, which are the leading 2 companies in the space outside of Tesla. We also haven't seen that much progress from Tesla. We've seen some videos, but we haven't seen like useful stuff yet. So maybe next year, that's where people could get more excited. And that would be nice. Where's Micron in the pre-markets? Micron is up 1.4%. IREN should be green. IREN is up 3%. Nebius, I think, is pushing $80.70. And then CoreWeave up 5%. I think, again, IREN, Nebius, CoreWeave, those 3 probably lead the data center trade next year. All the other ones are going to either follow or dump with them. So they're in that same bucket, CoreWeave, Cypher, Applied Digital, etc. But I do think those are your top 3. Nebius, CoreWeave, IREN in the space. Nike, do you buy the dip? I'm not. I can understand why people do. I just don't think it's the most attractive opportunity in the stock market. There's a lot of things that I'd rather buy before. And also, again, the CEO said the tariffs are an issue. So maybe it reverses just for the hell of it. But if you believe the CEO, it's going to take at least 2 quarters, which means you might have time versus having to buy right here. NVIDIA getting a little bit move. We have 40 seconds, folks, until we open. What do we think? Do we hold this momentum? We've had 2 days in a row where it faded by the end of the day. On Monday, it faded within about 20 minutes. So let's see. 7 trillion of options expiring today. Maybe this momentum holds and we can end out on a good note this Friday. Maybe the market continues to be a little exhausted and just doesn't give us that aggressive premium like we were trying to get back up. All right, here we go. Friday, December 19th. We are almost at the end of the year, 9:30 a.m. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Once again, the stock market is now open. All right, wake your ass up. Let's get into it. NVIDIA with a move above 177. She is trying. That's up 1.5%. S&P goes green. That's up 0.34%. 676 VG. That's up 0.43%. Rocket Lab 60.78. That is green as well. Back above 60 for the Lab of Rockets. Robinhood trying to push 120 again. 119.81. SoFi, look at that. 26.70. Let's get that bad boy back to 27. 26.70 up 2%. On SoFi. Palantir 187, that's up 1%. Amcor's up 0.5%. NetApp's up a little bit. Meta's at 665. Where is Tesla? 488. Did not break 490 yet. 488. Google's red. Weird. Nike continues to dump. That's down 10. Grab trying to make a push back to 5. They did acquire a robotics company this morning. S&P 677. Amazon 226. NVIDIA, there you go. If NVIDIA can get back above 180 today, I feel like that would be very, very bullish for maybe a little bit of the AI trade sentiment coming back, but it's got some work to do. Robinhood, we've seen it break 124 2 days in a row and then lose that back to 117 2 days in a row. So today, if it can even close above 120, I think that'd be nice. SoFi right there. Look at her go, 26.85. She's done this the past couple of days and then hasn't been able to hold it, but maybe today she can. 26.85 for SoFi. Microsoft right there at 485. GameStop at 22.62. Oklo at $80. And then Netflix getting a bit of a move. Bitcoin not really going crazy at 88,000, but that is nice to see. Rivian is at 2080. That's up 2.5%. Palantir, are we pushing 190? Not yet, but 188 we did touch. That's up 1% right there for Palantir. IREM, that's up 4.8. Nebius, that's up 3. Nebius was at 77 yesterday. So nice move from 77 to 81. But again, that one's super volatile. Broadcom finally getting a little bit of a pump on the market open. That hasn't happened for the past couple of days. 336 on Broadcom. Oracle, are we holding 5%? We are holding 6% on Oracle, 190.7. FedEx had a good earnings. Not sure why they're down 4, but FedEx and Nike both down, even though they really did have good earnings. Nike down 9%, FedEx down 4.5%. And then where's Micron from yesterday? Micron, wow, look at that. Micron, 5% off of a blockbuster earnings. And that one continues to get some momentum. SoFi right there, she's really trying to push 27, 26.78. Rocket Lab just not stopping, 62.30. I got an email yesterday from a friend who says, I can get you into SpaceX, but you have to make a decision today, and your valuation is $886 billion. I'm probably not going to invest. Now, he's really confident SpaceX opens at around 1.5 to 2 trillion, which, to be honest, can you blame him? 1.5 to 2 trillion. I'm like, yeah, it probably does open at that level. But 886 billion when Rocket Lab's at 33 billion. I mean, again, I do think Rocket Lab's going to be seen as that proxy. I think it's going to be seen as a proxy. Palantir, she's trying for 190. She touched it. She touched it. She's not there yet. No, it wasn't Chris. It was actually someone. It's another fund I invested in. It's actually a Palantir alumni who started his own defense tech fund. And I put a little bit of money into his fund, and his fund just goes and tries to find different startups to invest in the defense tech space. And I met him a year ago in California, but he had access to, but there's a 20% carry, there's a 4% fee. I'm like, there's all these freaking fees just to hope that SpaceX opens at 2x the original price. Like, there's a lot of assumptions baked into what he was saying. And I was just like, dude, I don't know. 886 billion is aggressive. But it's going to pump. Like, we know SpaceX is going to pump. So it's probably a guaranteed double. It's just, I would really have to feel confident that I could dump it day one, because I don't know if I want to hold it at that level, just given that scale of valuation that it's already at. DoorDash, that's up 1.34%. Medline, that was an IPO this week, 39.84. That's up 1%. Tesla 45 is not holding up that momentum. And SoFi loses everything. What is wrong with this stock? Cannot hold gains for the life of it. And I don't even blame SoFi here. I just feel like there's some fund manipulating or something. Like, goodness, how does it lose 40 cents in 20 seconds? Cannot hold on to their gains. Palantir right there losing 190, right back to 188. Rocket Lab 62.83, did touch 63. Nebius 80, and then Google at 303. Nike falls 10%, most since April, 59.26. That is down 10% on the day. You would have a lockup period when the IPO. Yeah, I didn't even ask him about that, but there's no way I wouldn't have a lockup period. All of these private deals, you have to have a lockup. And the lockup period is on average 6 months. It's like I'm paying an enormous valuation. And like, yes, there is a massive bull case that this thing pumps. But in 6 months, do we really expect it to hold a 2x? Like the public markets are not that forgiving. And people take profits pretty quickly. So I don't know. But I do know that Rocket Lab will be seen as the thing that people, that now that doesn't mean Rocket Lab's valuation is amazing at 60 times price of sales here. But if it's pure momentum, I feel like that might be a better bet than trying to privately get SpaceX. Rivian 21, that's up 3.6. SoFi losing pretty much everything. 26.88. Someone just sold a lot at 26.88 for it to cause that dump. And then CoreWeave 9%. Haven't seen a 9% move in a minute on CoreWeave. Look at that. 9% on CoreWeave. The reason I think is because they got added to the Genesis project with the Trump administration, but that's not that big of a deal because so did Palantir, so did NVIDIA, so did Intel. So I feel like there has to be a deeper reason why it's pumping. Nebius right there up 4%, but maybe it's just all the data center plays following Oracle's lead. And that's what's helping out. It's a bull trap. Well, we've experienced multiple bull traps this week, so it's very possible it is. Rocket Lab right there, 62.70. That's up 4%. Micron, though, she's pushing all-time highs. SMR, that's up 2%. I think Oklow's making a move right here. Oklow's up 5%. Trump's DJT did merge with a fusion company yesterday. That's why that was up 40%. That's up now 1.5%. So maybe a little bit of nuclear momentum. Rivian, I mean, look, congrats if you got Rivian at 12, 13 bucks this year. You just have to be patient. I don't fully understand or love the Rivian thesis, but you're being well rewarded towards the end of the year if you held on to these shares early in the year. So Rivian right there, 21.12. That's up 4% on the day. Google still red. Broadcom grabs up almost 2%. Broadcom up 1.8%. Then the S&P 677. 677. Any data? No, I don't think we do. We even get PCE today? Did we? I don't think we had PCE today. Yeah, well, there is no PCE. Where the hell is it? We were supposed to get it at 8:30. Oh shit, they rescheduled it. Wow. They came out and said we were scheduling it. They put it off, yeah. It says to be rescheduled on the website. Original was supposed to be December 19th. Oh, that would have been a big move today if we had PCE, especially because CPI was really good. See, this is why people are saying they cook the books on CPI, because maybe they're not finished cooking the books on PCE. That might be the reason. Housing numbers today. Okay, that'll be out in like 15 minutes then if we get housing numbers. Dude, to be honest, if it's bad, they can keep that shit. They can keep it. We don't need it. If it's a bad number, don't show it to me. I don't care. I don't need to see the number. If it's bad, you can keep it. You guys can keep analyzing it. You can give a nice little excuse for why you need to continue looking at the numbers. We don't need to see it. I speak on everyone's behalf. Before Christmas, we really don't need to see it. It's okay. NVIDIA, 178. 178. Do you think someone's shorting SoFi? Something's happening with SoFi. I'm not even blaming SoFi, the company, for it. Their stock is, their company is executing at a this is not about the company. This is just weird price action. We haven't seen that in a couple of days. We haven't seen it pump that heavy and then just immediately get hit. Either opens red or it opens flat. We haven't seen a pump like that makes you think it's getting ready to just forget go to the moon, but just like hold on to a 2% move, and then it just gets demolished. So yeah, I'm sure some shorts are probably in there working on the stock. NVIDIA right there, 178. That's up 2.3. The Q 614. Yeah, it's like an NVIDIA style dump, right? We haven't seen that in a minute. And then Hood right there, 118. Hood as well, losing 121. Hood has lost 123 times in a row, but it's not fell below 116. So it's kind of in that range. Same thing with SoFi, kind of in that range of 27 or 25 to 27. Amcor back at 40. Qualcomm at 175. Where is Lemonade? That is down 1.6%. Oscar is below 15. We do not have a vote on the subsidies. So that's not doing well. Lunar's up 18%. Intuitive Machines. This is a space company as well, right, guys? We've talked about this before. There might be a space headline that's causing that one to get some love. Lunar, Intuitive Machines, that's up 18%. Oh, I forgot. It's triple. Yeah, it's quad witching. Of course. We literally talked about it in the morning and I forgot. Of course, this thing's going to run up 2% and then go down in like 5 seconds. Like, there's so many crazy things happening in the options market today. So many people exercising their calls, buying calls, hedging their calls immediately right when they buy them. Like, there's probably a ton of things happening here that could easily cause those price moves. Rivian, $21 right here. AMD, is she getting a move? AMD is up 3. So AMD and NVIDIA both moving together, which is very nice to see. Haven't seen that all week, basically. Google goes back to green. Rivian coming out with their Model Y competitor in 2026. Okay, the Model Y is like the best-selling car in the country. Do we really think Rivian's going to give the Model Y a meaningful run for their money? And the Model Y is like one of the best-selling cars in the entire country. Not even the best-selling EV, one of the best-selling cars. So, like, yeah, they could come out with a competitor, but I wonder if it's really going to make people think twice about it. But then again, any upside for Rivian at this point is bullish. I'm getting a Model Y this weekend. You know, GMC, Jason texted me this last night, is doing 0% APR on 2025 Hummer EV SUV models. So he's thinking of one of those. Wow, look at Rocket Lab, 6%. Yeah, the space trade, it's back today. But there are some more creative financing options that are happening. Tesla goes red. Tesla goes red. Is Amit still holding Nebius? Yes, I'm still holding Nebius. Micron, is Micron all-time highs officially? Yeah, wow. 264.75. It hit all-time highs. Incredible. Incredible. For those that got in this one, absolutely incredible. This one, massive move, 6.53% on Micron. Palantir 188. Rocket Lab trying to push 64. Nike continues to go down 9. Oracle as well. Look at that. 7% move. Haven't seen that in almost 3 weeks on Oracle. I guess this is off the TikTok news. But that is also green. Rivian's still up. I'm looking at a couple of other different headlines right here. Seeing if we have something else going on. Again, Trump speaking at 1 p.m. The EU is having a meeting today as well. Oh, Carnival Cruise had earnings today. We didn't even look at that. CCL, that's up 4.3. Net income, $422 million. Revenue, 6.3. It's a slight miss on revenue. EPS beat. I guess people are going on cruises. All the cruise lines were up this week as well. Yeah, Carnival had relatively decent earnings. So there you go. That is green. Carnival Cruise right there, 4.16%. NCLH. So they missed on revenue. They beat on EPS. That one's up also 3% as well. CoreWeave, 11%. CoreWeave, 11%. I think anyone owning CoreWeave deserves this. There's just been nothing but ugliness for CoreWeave. Worse than Nebius and I ran over the past couple of weeks. So this one deserves a little bit of love. Rivian right there, up 3%. And then AMD is still up 4%. If AMD is up 4%, NVIDIA's got to be there. You go. Yeah, NVIDIA 3%. Okay, so the chip names, this makes sense. The only reason Micron's pumping is because the chip names are pumping as well. I mean, Micron had a great earnings, but it needs the chip names to cooperate. It looks like all the chip names are cooperating. Broadcom, 3%. There's not a big semi headline today. So this could either be a rug pull on the, look at the semis, TSM, Qualcomm, Broadcom, ASML on, Intel's up 3%, SMCI, Lam Research. It's either a rug pull or markets getting a little favorable towards the semis again. NVIDIA's got to break 180 to even think we have a shot of holding this. S&P is probably above 680. S&P very close above 680, 679, 57. AMD CEO, yes, meeting in China. We talked about that yesterday. Palantir likes when NVIDIA does well. So Palantir right there, 189.59. That's also green, up 2%. Here's the question. Is this Santa rally, or in like 10 minutes, are we going to be like, oh, that one, once again, wasn't able to hold? I mean, we haven't seen NVIDIA make a move like this in at least a week, which makes me feel there's a little bit more juice to it. Let's see. Let's put it in the chat. What do we think? What do we think? 72% of you said green over red. Do you think we hold? Do you think the Venezuela conflict is going to matter long term? I mean, it really depends on like how serious we take it. Would Palantir be involved? I have no idea. Trump did not talk about it. We thought we would get in a primetime address about that. That wasn't the case. Okay, bull trap. That's the question. Yes or no? Bull trap. Yes or no? Look at that. Nebius up 5%. And then we finally see Nate in the chat. We haven't seen Nate in the chat all week. Nebius up 5%. We're back. Look at that. Wow, Nebius up 8%. Never mind. Not 5. This guy. He just needs his Nebius to be up so he can tell everybody we're back. I mean, dude, Nebius at freaking 75 yesterday, that like completely discounted the entire Microsoft deal. It gave them a $10, like they were trading at 65 before Microsoft. So at 75, I mean, that's a $10 move on what was one of the biggest data center deals we saw all year. So Street completely took away any premium they had. NVIDIA right there, she's pushing 180. Can we do it? There we go, 180. 180. Okay, now let's see if the buyers step in. This is where, look at Palantir. Wow. 190.7. She's loving it as well. Nebius 84, CoreWeave 75 is Hood. Hood's got to be 120. 120.4 on Hood. SoFi's probably got to love that. SoFi 2670, she's coming back. AMD's has to be moving as well. 210. I want to say it feels a little real. I'm afraid to say it, but it feels a little real. It's cool to see. It's just, can we actually hold it right here? That is the question. That is a simple freaking question. Can we actually hold it right here? 179 on NVIDIA. I mean, if we even get a 180 close, I'll be happy. Carnival, that's up 3. Micron, that's up 7. I'm trying to see if there's any actual headline. I don't see anything, guys. I think this is probably quad witching as well to the upside. Openai has moved to strike direct deals with Samsung and SK Hynix to secure memory chips. Oh, that's probably what's pumping Micron. Openai is now signing direct deals with memory companies. Securing these components directly provides more flexibility for its future custom AI chips. I mean, the reason they're doing that is because memory is so vital to the stack when it comes to these chips. It's not bearish Micron either. It just means that these companies like OpenAI recognize how important it is to get these deals done. NVIDIA, okay, fading from 180, still holding 179. Palantir fading a little bit from 190, and then Hood losing 120.4. S&P losing 680 or 679.60. Who's taking profits here? Who's selling something? Who's selling something here? Or better yet, who's buying something? Who's buying into the strength? That's the tough part about these whipsaws. It's like you buy into the strength, expecting like even a little bit more strength, and then immediately when you buy, like that strength fades, which is what has happened literally over the past month at this point, which is why people are just so exhausted of trying to buy the breakout. Like if you bought the Tesla breakout, I mean, depending on when you bought it, it hasn't worked out. And I don't think the Tesla breakout was 480. I think the Tesla breakout really, or 482. I think it really 490 was the Tesla breakout. That's when people were like, okay, it's 500. Maybe you could say the 470 was the Tesla breakout, which in that case, you're still doing okay, but it hasn't fully worked out to that 500 level yet. D saying into NVIDIA, I sold my NVIDIA calls, 250% profit. Congrats. That's a 2.5x is not something to be complaining about. Sidelines for today, holding Tesla. Bought Nike and Oxy today. Look, you buy stocks when they're down if the fundamentals haven't fundamentally changed. So, yeah, I don't hate buying the Nike dip right here. I think there's other opportunities, but the fundamentals aren't horrible. They aren't the best, but they are not like deteriorating completely. So if you like Nike, today is the day you buy. You don't buy when it's up 10% in a month. Doug said I'm buying Meta today. Where is Meta? Meta had that move back to 680 and then it got hit and it really couldn't hold it. This was after the metaverse news. Doug says I sold App at the bottom. Where's App? Wow, App back above 7. Dude, this thing was at 520 2 weeks ago. I bought it at 570 and I sold it at 598. So I made a little money off this, but the SEC probe has not been that big of a deal for them. Amazon 227. Are we holding at all? Nvidia is not really holding. I mean, she's holding, but that 180 breakout, if you whoever bought it 180 or 180.5 or 180.2, she just breaks your heart. That's now it's it's only been a couple minutes, but still. Hood once again below 120. Like this one, every time it breaks above, if Nvidia, the broader market doesn't move, this one gets hit. SoFi though, 2660, I'll take it, up 1.4%. At least it's holding on a little bit. And then Oklo up 3.4. Where's BM&R? We haven't looked at that. BM&R 30.3, up 7%. I don't know if we're getting ETH 12K by the end of the year. If we get ETH 12K by the end of the year, Tom Lee is goated, and I never want to hear a complaint about him again. If we even get ETH 5K by the end of the year, I just think at this point, it's going to be tough to get there. But it'd be nice if we did. I'll take 5K. Yeah, I would, dude. At this point, I would take freaking 3,500. I'd be happy with that as well. We got Lutnick. Let's see what Mr. Lutnick has to say right here. This was early in the morning. Once again, the White House sending him to talk about this affordability crisis. Let's see what Mr. Lutnick has to say.
Tonight, because some of them were just mathematically impossible. Listen to what he said about bringing down the price of prescription drugs. Listen here.
I negotiated directly with the drug companies and foreign nations to which were taking advantage of our country for many decades to slash prices on drugs and pharmaceuticals by as much as 400, 500, and even 600%.
Well, if you cut something by 100%, the cost goes down to zero. If you cut it by 4, 5, or 600%, the drug companies are actually paying you to take their product. So it raises the question, how much of last night's speech was hyperbole and how much was fact?
No, what he's saying is you bring it, if a drug was $100 and you bring the drug down to $13, right? If you're looking at it from $13, it's down 7 times.
It's not a 600%.
Well, but it's 700% higher price before. Higher price before. It's down 700% now, right? So a $13 would have to go up 700% to get back to the old one. So it all depends on when you look at it. You could say it's down 87%, or you could say it would have to go up 700% to be the same one. So it just depends on what you look at it. But basically what he's saying, and we all know what he's saying, is we are hammering.
I mean, if you say it in the way where it mathematically makes sense, then yes, he's right. But technically, it can't be down 700%. But yeah, we get the point of what he's making. Meta right there, 664. Trump will be live at 1 p.m. once again to talk about pharmaceuticals and drug prices. And so we're going to see if that has any impact on the pharma stocks. Tesla goes red again. Pfizer's up 4.2%. By the way, guys, I don't think that was my internet. Sometimes these X videos just aren't good. So I doubt that was my internet, but that video probably just wasn't loading as well. Robinhood once again loses 120. Palantir losing 190, but 189 is still incredible. S&P 679. And then NVIDIA trying to get back to 180 right here. ETH down 1,000,000%. Yes, ETH is down 1,000,000%, dude. Oh my gosh. CoreWeave up 12. Yeah, BMNR is down 400%. All right, we're gonna have to see. We're gonna have to see. The theme of the week has been exhaustion in the AI trade, and once again, we're gonna have to see throughout today. Is that exhaustion gonna continue to play its role? And again, I mean, we saw Broadcom go down 30% in the past week, like 420 to 337. I mean, if that's the trade's exhausted. Oracle, same thing. Which is actually the best way. I mean, like when you're exhausted, you have to take a break, right? You have to rest. And so Broadcom chilling out in the 330s for the next couple weeks, it's going to be annoying, but that is the best way to get the next leg up. And I kind of feel that way about NVIDIA as well. Like NVIDIA, I mean, look, when NVIDIA ran to 200, I remember I was live with Tanner and we were just looking at the stock and we were like, dude, we love it, but this is kind of, there's no earnings, there's no profit guidance. There's just this quote by Jensen about a $500 billion revenue target, which at the end of the day, it's just a quote at GTC. So it was a lot. Now, then we got the earnings and we're like, okay, now this justifies 200 and then the market. So it's like if NVIDIA is exhausted here as well, and it's taking a breather, but it's not taking a breather because there's anything fundamentally broken, then that's okay. And that actually should be healthy going into 2026. Rocket Lab, though, is not exhausted. My goodness, 64.33. This one has almost recovered the entirety of their loss from the October highs. Topped out at 73. It's at 64. That's not that far away from 73. There's a world where that happens. Are you playing the Powerball? How much is the Powerball today? How much is the Powerball? 1.5 billion. That's crazy. My dad grew up selling lottery tickets. In the liquor store, he sold a lot of lottery. I used to see a lot of people come in every day and buy lottery tickets. It actually gave me a pretty interesting perspective on the lottery. Because what I would really see is a lot of blue-collar workers come in, nurses, mechanics, etc. And the three things they would buy would be liquor, cigarettes, and lotto tickets. And I just saw this happen for years and years and years. And I don't know, that whole idea of it kind of turned me off to the concept of the lottery. It's almost like you're buying hope more than anything. And the odds are so against you. Like it literally should be something you do for fun. But I would see the same people come in every Friday and they would have a strategy. Like they would play like 45 different permutations. They would spend a good $150 on different numbers they think would actually win the lotto. And I'm looking at this shit. I'm like, bro, you have a 1 in 40 million chance. And they were trying to apply a strategy towards it. So I don't know. It always took me away from the idea of the lottery because it made me feel like it's just constantly rigged against you and it's hard to win. And then the worst part about it is, let's say you do win and everyone knows you just made 1.5 billion. The amount of stories of lottery winners that now are just not safe for the rest of their life. They try to be anonymous, but it never works out. And you've got all that cash that is just yours. It's a little scary if you do actually end up winning it. So I'm probably not playing the Powerball, but if it does end up doing well, then that would be nice for anyone in the chat who wins 1.5. If anyone wins the 1.5 billion, can you just buy up all of the ETH supply? Can you just like get ETH back up to 4,000? That'd be nice. NVIDIA, highs of the day, 180.3. 180.3. Okay, so a little bit of rejection, then it came back. Now, so this is the second time we hit 180. Now we got to see if we can hold it up. Yeah, can you buy all of Grab too? That'd be nice. That'd be very nice. Well, first of all, 50% of it's going to be taxed. Like you're not actually going to get 1.5 billion unless you pick the payment plan versus the cash up front. But it's always smarter to take the cash up front, even if you have to pay the taxes. Just like the safety of getting it over time matters. 267 on Micron. I think Carnival is up 6%. Cash value 650 million. I mean, 650 million is not too bad. Although I do think there's another argument with the lottery. ASTS, by the way, up 5% as well, which is that if you get that much cash and you didn't really work for it, again, there's a lot. And again, I got deep into this because I used to see the lottery playing every day. So I really actually tried to. And my grandpa, he passed away in 2022, but he loved the lottery, like the scratch offs. Like he would be playing. He'd play a couple $100 worth of it literally every week. And then I got into it because I saw the scratch. I was like, hey, let's see if, the magic number is 12. Let's see if we get 12 and we win $300. Like it became this kind of like dopamine effect for me as well. But the odds are so against you. Now, the thing is, if you win $650 million and you didn't do anything to really deserve it outside of picking some numbers, it also messes with your mind because it makes you start to think that like you don't actually deserve it. And, your life starts losing purpose. It's like, did you actually do anything to get the money? That stuff is a whole different question to analyze. NVIDIA 180.5, BMNR 30.5, Palantir 191. All right, so we are absolutely pushing the highs of the day and trying to continue breaking through. Broadcom 340, Rocket Lab just busting through 65. Busting through 65. Existing home scales, 4.13 million versus 4.15 million expected. That's actually a decent number, even though it's a miss. The street is reacting positively to that.
These are the December final reads on University of Michigan sentiment and the inflation metrics embedded in this report. So the mid-month read gets tossed. 53.3 was the mid-month read on the headline. It now moves lower to 52.9. That would be the weakest since it was 51 in November. And I'd like to point out that if you look at the absolute low, it is 50 from June of 22. We're not far away from the low going back to my database in the 70s. Now, if we look at current conditions, same dynamic. 50.7 mid-month becomes 50.4, and 50.4 is a new all-time low, replacing the 50.7. Also, my database goes back into the 1970s. Look at expectations. Same dynamic. Mid-month 55 now becomes 54.6, and 54.6 will be the weakest since November when it was 51. And finally, on the inflation front, well, 4.2, it replaces 4.1. It's 1/10 hotter on the 1-year inflation. On the 5 to 10-year inflation rate, it remains the same at 3.2%. And I must point out that the equity markets are making new highs on the Dow Jones Industrial Average for the session on this data. And it's weaker than expected and pretty much a punt on the inflation data. So no surprises. But I will also point out University of Michigan has not kept up with what it normally does, and that is correlate with the equity moves. Now, let's shoot towards Diana Olick on the East Coast for what's going on with existing home sales for the month of November.
Well, Rick, existing home sales in November rose 0.5% to a seasonally adjusted annualized rate of 4.13 million units. That is right along expectations. Sales down 1% from November of last year. Now, this count is based on closings, so contracts likely signed in September and October when mortgage rates initially came down a little bit, but then stayed in a very tight range. The headline on this report is supply. It is coming down again. We've reported on more sellers delisting their homes. There were 1.43 million units for sale at the end of November, down 5.9% from October, still up 7.5% from the year before, but losing those big annual gains. This is a 4.2-month supply, and that's keeping pressure on prices. The median price of a home sold in November was $409,200, an increase of 1.2% year over year, and the highest November price on record. Homes are staying on the market longer, an average of 36 days versus 32 the year before. First-time buyers just 30%, unchanged from a year ago. Historically, that number should be 40%. But investors made up 18% of sales, up from 13% a year ago. And the Realtors' chief economist noted they did not see a surge of delayed closings coming out of the government shutdown in October. Leslie?
Okay, so we got pretty good data. Consumer sentiment bottoming, or at least the lowest level in 6 months. Inflation expectations, the lowest level pretty much all year. And that makes sense because CPI has got that. That also means that the CPI, I mean, I know people are saying it's not legit, but if consumers are not expecting inflation to be that high, it's maybe because they're not seeing prices go up as much. So that could be one argument. And then home sales, it's up a little bit. It's up a little bit. So housing market's not completely opened up, but it's not like it's completely frozen either. Not saying the data is phenomenal, but it's definitely data that if the market's gonna have a short-term reaction to that reaction would probably be positive versus not. Now, do we hold that positive reaction? That is the question as we enter into the 10 a.m. hour. Tesla's still red. Weird. Robinhood loses 120 again. AMD at 211. S&P did touch 680.5. Carnival 7%. Great earnings and good consumer sentiment. Low inflation, that'll help. Rivian, that's up 5%. Then Micron, that's up 6%. And then NVIDIA loses 180 again. If it hits 180 after this, which it did just now, that's the fourth time it wobbled between 180. Got to 180.7. But at least you're seeing that 3% move. Where's fear and greed? We're definitely closer to neutral, I would imagine. Fear and greed is at 47 neutral. Yeah, you can't necessarily say there's fear here. Nuclear's loving it. Oklow's up. SMR is up. Yep, Oklow up 5. I don't know. I think a lot of this move has more to do with quad witching, to be honest. Like, that data was good, and that's a jolt. But given some stocks are green, some stocks are red, when you should see a little bit more of a trend, to me feels there's some quad witching going on that's affecting a bunch of these. I mean, the amount of options on Tesla that are expiring today must be crazy. I mean, let's just take a look. Tesla, let's just look at the 480 call on Tesla today. What's the open interest? Yeah, dude. I mean, these calls are we've got, dude, there are calls at 550 that are expiring today. 14,000 open interest. There are calls at 600, 24,000 open interest. I mean, how many people do you think took some of those calls on the breakout on Tesla? And those are expiring today. You got 15,000 at 450, 11,000 at 470. I mean, you got tons and tons of calls here that are probably going back and forth. PayPal, that one's still red. Yeah, if they sold those calls, they're getting paid. PayPal 59.41. BM&R 7%, not horrible. At least you're seeing a little bit more. And Palantir 191.50. I mean, this thing touched 193 a couple of days ago overnight, and then it faded away. 191.50 right there on Palantir. Is Nike getting worse? Nike is still stuck, 9% down. At least it's kind of bottoming at 59, maybe. Touched 57 for a slight bit. If NVIDIA starts selling off, we're probably red again. Yeah, NVIDIA 179. If we see like 177 NVIDIA, that gives up a majority of the move. That might end up hurting us. Palantir 192. So Palantir doesn't care. That one's not really reacting with the market. Rocket Lab just below 65, and then Broadcom 338. What do you think about Shopify? Love Shopify, expensive multiple. You buy this one and you don't look at it type of stock, which is hard to do because it's a growth stock, but it also is one of those stocks that's just not rewarded you in the short term. Like, you really take a long-term view and this one plays out. I just, you know, paying a bit of a multiple on this one. Shopify 160. Also, they're growing. Shopify's growth is not like hyper growth though. It's really amazing growth. And you can't discount it, but it's not like, you know, you have to own it as a growth stock because you're missing. I mean, the time to do that was like 8 years ago in 2017. That's when their e-com business was really scaling globally. But still a great company. Nebius up 9%. Again, this what you can't get too highs on the 9% days and you can't get too lows on the 9% down days because they happen almost every week for a data center play. Like a Nebius, Iran Core, we've like you just gotta roll with the punches up or down on this one. Amazon's still stuck. Did Steve buy VG? Well, he said last night he was going to. So we'll see if he does that. I think it'll be on the close. And we'll see. Okay, can someone explain to me this BM&R 50 billion new shares thing? I've seen the headline, but I don't know that much about it. There's a shareholder vote on 50 billion shares. I honestly have not even read into it. the way I think of BMNR is I think of if ETH goes up, it goes up. If it doesn't, it goes down. So if they're trying to get a vote on 50 billion new shares, I would imagine it's just to buy more ETH. Like there's nothing new to the strategy other than the amount that they want to dilute by. Which is why I kind of don't have that much of an opinion on it, but apparently that's what they're trying to do. Voted against it, vote against it. So what is the exact, someone give me the bull and the bear case. Like what's the bull case to vote for it, the bear case to vote against it? Where do you get the stats about Tesla options? If you just go to your options chain, based on the UI, you can easily see the open interest on the chain. So the 480 call has 16,000 expiring today. And that 480 Tesla call is down 20% right now. It needs to get to 485 for that thing to be profitable. But that's how you see those stats. NVIDIA trying to get back to 180, 179.20. Authorized shares allowed to dilute. Okay, so why? So you would vote for it and give them the freedom and the flexibility to just dilute more and buy ETH. That's the bull case, right? I guess the bear case is you don't want them to dilute, but then again, that's their whole model, to get money to buy ETH, right? It's the intention behind the issuance of 50 billion shares. They're not transparent. I have to read through it. I will say, though, the fact that we don't even have an MNAV tracker on the website. I love Tom, but there's a lot of things with this BMNR shit that has not worked out. And it's, forget the stock price even. Like, forget that. Like, we can live with a stock that's down. Deeper question here. A deeper question, I just think of it from a brand perspective, is his brand, bro. This guy had one of the best brands in finance. Like, literally one of the best brands in finance. And this shit, again, the process of this happening more so than even the stock being down. People can handle a stock being down. They can sit on dead money. But if they feel like there's not transparency in the process or they don't understand why, that's what really pisses off a lot of people. It is to avoid a hostile takeover. Yeah, I have not read it. I mean, maybe that's correct. All I know is if they want to dilute, it's to buy more ETH, which would not be, in general, the craziest idea. That's why I bought initially his brand. I mean, yeah, same here. If you guys remember, I was pretty freaking like BMNR stupid for 2 months. A lot of you guys gave me shit. And then I looked into it and I was like, well, technically, if ETH goes up, it's not that stupid. And then he came on the show and, you know, he did his Tom Lee convincing communication style. And I was like, you know, it actually kind of makes some sense. And a lot of you guys got in at like 27.30. So, which was like literally a double from where it went to at 60. I got in at like 42, 43. But part of the reason I bring this up is because, you know, with my skepticism around it, the reason I bought is because of his brand. Now, I don't blame his brand for crypto tanking as bad as it did. But to preserve that brand, you have to be transparent throughout the process. And just having something as simple as an MNAV tracker on the website so that people don't have to manually figure it out themselves, like Saylor does, you know, that's a step in just being transparent about this. The thesis is solid. Yes, the thesis is solid because the thesis rests on ETH. And that's why I don't blame the thesis collapsing because crypto prices collapsed. Because at the end of the day, who could have predicted that? Now, obviously the timing was really bad. And like, that's why he's getting a lot of shit for it. But I'm personally not giving him shit for that because if you're in the investing community, you will always be wrong on timing in some point or another. And if you give yourself a long enough time frame, the short term 1 or even 2 years of something being flat, like Bitcoin was before it ended up 20xing when he was the only Wall Street guy recommending it at $5,000, he then looked like a genius. So it's not about that. It's about the process and it's about how people feel during that time versus like the stock itself being down. It was just a glitch. Dude, I think he's right about that though. Like we give him shit, but I think he's right. There probably was some stupid glitch in Binance and that caused these massive liquidations. And like as annoying as that explanation is, it's probably the reason. Like I don't know what else explains that much liquidations in crypto. Unless everyone just woke up and said, we don't care anymore. Which may be, but let's get some analysis on Nike. By the way, Triple V, thank you for being here. Thank you for the $200 super chat. Deeply, deeply appreciate you. Triple V, for those that remember, this was 2 quarters ago. He bought 100,000 shares of Nike and traded it. I think he bought at 62, sold at 67. This was back in like August of last year, I think. Or maybe it was this year. But that Nike trade completely could not have been replicated again yesterday because this thing just went right down from 67 to 59. Here's some coverage from Jeffries on Nike.
It is distorting resources and time and effort, and that's in North America first and running. The company talked about China on their call last night to say, look, we're going to focus on China next. They have a pilot program going on right now with a store and a couple stores where they're resorting and resetting the assortment, and that's starting to work. But China is going to take time. I actually think China will start to bottom in the next few quarters, and we'll go on from there. But, you know, the focus on the market today should be about the progress in North America, which is a very good positive green shoot for the business.
We'll get to it. But what is the problem in China right now? Is it about merchandising? Is it about order books, something else?
I think it's about the economy over there. Generally speaking, we're seeing most companies that produce or sell into China are having difficulties. So it's not Nike's fault. The consumer in China is more price sensitive, and Nike's having to deal with that. In addition, Nike has to kind of reset the playbook in terms of product, and they're going to do that, and it's going to take time. Look, we think it takes another 3 to 4 quarters in China to fix, but you know what? In the near term, North America is really getting better, and that should be the focus right now. Investors should buy the stock today, looking at for 2 years from now, which we think we'll see earnings per share start to rally back from where they are today.
Some of your competitors concerned, at least in a note, about their strategy of putting product in front of the consumer now in terms of the widening gap between direct-to-consumer and the wholesale channel, and maybe they're flooding that channel, and it's going to mean a tough 26. How do you see it?
Yeah, look, I think what's encouraging is that the sell-through rate in the new products in running are working well. And if you look at the direct channel distribution, the reason why it's lagging the wholesale channel distribution is they changed the pricing architecture and the promotional architecture in that channel distribution, meaning they're being less promotional. And being less promotional is creating a lower sales growth rate for that channel of distribution. So I actually think it's becoming a healthier channel for the company. You combine that with a more balanced distribution with wholesale coming back. I think it actually says this company's doing the right things as we look over the next 12 to 24 months.
How do you assess the competitive posture at this point?
Okay, so again, the China argument is what Jeffries is blaming it on. Their argument is China recovers, Nike recovers. So if you don't think it's more of a brand thing or a Nike not really keeping up with the current state of the consumer, but it's a China thing, that is an easier dip buy, especially because China's stimulating. So that is their argument for why Nike got hit. Broadcom up 2.5, Rocket Lab up 8, BMNR up 9, Ethereum back above 3, crypto catching a little bit of a bid. Bitcoin right there, 89.3. So crypto's moving. Are you buying Nike? No. Again, I just there's other tech stocks I'd honestly rather buy. And I don't want to be around for the turnaround. But if you do, then this is when you would buy. You got to buy on these 10% down days versus being greedy and waiting for 20%, which I don't think the earnings were that bad enough to get there. S&P 679, hoodie once again oscillating around 120. Meta still red. Meta and Amazon not participating here. Tesla, Meta, and Amazon. Where's Apple? Apple's red as well. So Tesla, Meta, Apple, and Amazon are not really showing any momentum on a relatively green day. NVIDIA 178. NVIDIA lost 179. At least it didn't lose 178 yet. And then Google up 1% as well. VG's on fire. Where's VG? VG. See, the thing about VG, again, we were talking about it last night. It's like, I don't really know if a 4 or 5% move even is relevant. Like, they have such a long runway and growth trajectory. They're like, again, I just don't. Dude, the volume on VG is 1.8 million shares. Like, who cares about 4% on this? There's no volume here. Which goes back to the point of like, this is just, I feel like it's not a name to look at every day. It's got to be in that bucket of like, I just hold for 5 years and I believe in the thesis. Now, when I was looking at their stats last night, I couldn't believe they IPO'd at 60 billion. I don't know how the hell they got that. That was a bigger valuation than Cheniere. There's the heat map, pretty much all green outside of a couple tech names. So that IPO price was insanity compared to where it is today. And I guess they didn't deserve that IPO price. But if the street was willing to give them 60 billion and now it's at 15, I feel like should be able to get back to 60. It just might not happen super soon, which means you don't obsess about it, right? But again, the volume's not there. Like people don't care about the stock. This is going to have to be a fundamental story for the street to catch up with it, because the only people that are really buying it is the street. This is not a retail driven stock. And even if it was a retail driven stock, still, you need big money to move some of these plays at 15 billion. Rocket Lab right there, back above 65. It's down 400%. Yeah, basically. No one deserves their IPO price. Almost everyone goes down for 18 months to 2 years before making a base. You know who doesn't? Reddit. That bad boy, 34 was the floor when they IPO'd. You know what the thesis was? As I've been writing my Reddit deep dive, and I've been going through a bunch of old articles, the thesis, and I remember hearing this back in June of 2024, was that the shorts, Wall Street Bets was going to short Reddit to get revenge against Reddit, shutting down Wall Street Bets during the GameStop era. That was the real potential bear case. That shit did not happen, and no one even cared about shorting Reddit because Reddit was the evil company that stopped the Wall Street Bets page. But that was one of the and that at a $6 billion valuation, that didn't even kind of happen. And Reddit ended up just going to the moon. So it is kind of crazy how, certain perceptions exist when a company goes public and you have a theory on what might happen, and then you don't get anything that matches that to that reality. Jane Street coming back. Is it 10:30? No, we still have 8 minutes. ETH just lost 3,000 again. Bitcoin just losing $200 right there, dude. They are taking this asset back and forth. Back and forth. Did anyone make some money today? Put it in the chat. Did anyone swing trade? Make any profits? Did anyone move things up or down at all? Or is it too early for that? Wow, Rocket Lab, she's not stopping. She is not freaking stopping. 65.74. My goodness, dude. Complete domination here. It's basically up now 50% over the past month. NVIDIA just below 179. Took profits on EOSC. That is a great stock to swing. Oracle profits, sold my Micron calls. Made a bit on Rocket Lab. Sold SoFi covered calls. Those have continued to print. Irwin, Rocket Lab calls. Irwin, did you sell Rocket Lab calls or you? Oh, you bought them and then you sold. Yeah, are those weekly calls that you're selling? Actually selling, not selling for premium, but you bought them low, selling them high. Palantir calls. Sold some Tesla at 490s, bought Iran at the lows. Iran up 6%. Erwin says, I bought $350,000 of April 75 calls on Tuesday. Those got to be up nicely. Those got to be up 150K, right? Yeah, that would be 150K. 350 contracts. Okay, that makes more sense. So they should be up a decent amount. I mean, honestly, I don't really like options going into next year, but with this SpaceX IPO, maybe Rocket Lab options are one way to take advantage of it. Even though I really don't love options this next year. But that could be an easy way to maybe gain some leverage. Yeah, they're up 100%. Tom, thanks for the super chat. I think Steph Curry will sign with Nike in 2026. Well, he's left Under Armour, which was weird. So I wouldn't be surprised if he does. I don't know why he ever signed with Under Armour, bro. These athletes try to be independent and sign with the brands that are losers. And it's Nike when it comes to sports and sponsoring the athletes, like they still dominate. Like you want to be with the best of the best there. And the shoes were ugly too. Like now Under Armour probably gave him a better deal. So he probably did it for the money, but like brand wise, the deal didn't even follow through. He didn't even stay with them. I feel like Nike and Adidas are the ones you go with here. Or you build your own brand. It's just hard in the consumer space to actually build your own brand without a partner. He wasn't that popular when he signed it. Well, that's fair. That's fair. If he signed it before the championships, yeah, that makes more sense. But after that means Under Armour got the better part of the deal after he won the championships. Alejandro said, I sold some Hood at 124 and got Rocket Lab at 55. Look, I mean, you basically transition from one high beta to the other. So technically, if Hood goes up, Rocket Lab should be okay, and vice versa. I mean, we are at a point in the market where it is really hard for certain high beta names to go down as other high beta names also go up. Like if you're long Nebius next year and Nebius doubles, not saying Hood's going to double or Rocket Lab's going to double, but it's really tough. Nebius up 10% right here. For Nebius to double and the other high beta names to not also do really well, which is what we saw this year. I mean, yeah, they're going to have some anomalies that just are not going to match up with it. But a lot of them are in the same bucket. SoFi right there, almost highs of day, 26.74. Again, Nebius dip from yesterday. Looks like a decent dip. That one right there, now 10% higher. Is Rocket Lab pricey? I think so, but I don't think it matters. Not saying this is the buy price, just saying, dude, again, that email I got last night, this dude is confident SpaceX is going to 2 trillion. And he talks with a lot of different LPs in the tech space. And he's like, yeah, we think this is pretty obvious. This thing's going to open at 2 trillion. It's going to be a big IPO. I don't see how Rocket Lab doesn't catch a bid in that situation. Now, granted, let's say the IPO in May and we get a little bit of correction early in the year, Rocket Lab's probably going back down along with every other stock. So there'll be a better entry if that happens, right? You got to take the risk there on timing it. But I think Rocket Lab's the play there. Rocket Lab just won the SDA Tranche 3 just now. That, I think I saw that headline. That opens up close to $1 billion of contract value for them, right? If I'm not wrong. That could also be a specific reason why it's moving today. Rocket Lab, yeah. Rocket Lab has been awarded an $805 million contract to build 18 satellites for SDA's tracking layer Tranche 3. I saw this earlier in the morning. That's correct. Okay, that's your actual, probably specific headline today for this one. Oh, yeah. Or when right when I was going to pull up the tweet, you sent the chat. Yeah, there it is right here. I don't know what the tracking layer of Tranche 3 is. I don't know what the SDA is. All I know is $805 million. Bullish Rocket Lab. But again, it was down 10% 2 days ago. So like you can't get too high when these things go up and be excited. Same thing with Nebius because they can easily just reverse. Now, granted, if we're Santa Claus rallying, maybe the reversal is not going to be, although Tesla barely holding 480 at this point. Palantir losing 192, but still holding 191, and then NVIDIA 178. Siege, thanks for the super chat, Amit. Sorry for the silly question, but if Bitcoin is down 12% over the last year and Hood is up 225% at the same time, do you think maybe you are being overly pessimistic on Hood when it comes to its Bitcoin correlation? That's a great question. The argument around Bitcoin correlation has more to do with their actual transaction volumes, less to do with like the sort of abstract concept of Bitcoin down, Hood goes down. We got through that. We've moved beyond that over the past 10 months because Hood has so many other parts of the business that they're executing on. The broader problem here is that if we get into a crypto winter, that's when Hood's transaction volumes on Bitcoin or on crypto in general, which are the majority of their transaction volumes, it's over like 37%, those get hit pretty bad. And the other really important nuance to understand here is now Hood has to beat $1.2 billion of revenue every quarter, which is why I'm saying the prediction markets, if you're a Hood shareholder, you kind of have to be for it because if we don't have crypto volumes, we need to make it up somewhere. And by the way, if we don't get crypto volumes, we're probably not making it up with options and equities. Because, I mean, what? Crypto is going to tank and options and equities are going to go to the moon? Like that usually doesn't happen. So we either get a general bull market that's good and crypto holds up, or crypto doesn't hold up. The broader market holds up, but it's not like enough to get you that massive 50, 60% transaction volume growth. And then what's left? Banking, prediction markets. There's a lot of layers left, but are those layers enough to justify 50% growth again? Or do we get down to 25% growth, which, look, at 25% growth, I don't know if Hood's multiple is easily sustained. Just like Palantir's multiple, if we get anywhere close to 30% growth, it's not going to be sustained. We have to keep up 60%. Now, I think we're in a better situation than Coinbase because like all their money pretty much is crypto transactions, whereas Hood has other parts that can help them. But that's my point. I just don't know. And I don't know if it's naive of me to expect a massive year for crypto going into 2026. Because if you don't get that, like at that point, it's just, you're not going to get the momentum that you had last year. CoreWeave right there, 17% on the day. My goodness. 17% on CoreWeave. I'm happy for people that have CoreWeave. This one deserves it. I don't know why it's getting this big of a move. I don't see like the specifics on it. Maybe it just got massively oversold, which is good to see in a bull market that these things recover. That one up 17%. Shorts covering. What is the short float on CoreWeave? Let me see. But yeah, that's my thought on it overall. I mean, it really just depends on how next year begins to play out. And so it's less about Bitcoin going down. It's more so about the transaction volumes. And again, Hood's now a mature company. They need to beat heavy numbers. Same thing with Palantir. They need to beat heavy. Look, Tesla is the only company that is 70% less profits. Let me say that again. 70% less profits over the past 2 years and is trading at a 320 PE. Like, not every company is going to be able to get away with showing no growth and still holding that. I don't know if Palantir and Hood can grow negative 70% and keep their multiple, especially when their comps are much harder than they were last year. So I think that's the nuance to think about. I don't think that means you sell. I think that just means going net new money long. But if your Hood average is $50, it's like you don't care, right? It's like, all right, whatever. If your Hood average is 118, like it's something to think about if it doesn't get that massive move. Bitmine right there up 8.3, up 11, up 2. Grab, it's got to be a green day if we're getting over 5 on Grab. Volume is almost 20. No, volume is only 5 million shares. That's not even a lot of volume. That's up about 2%. And Bitcoin at 88.2. Mizuho upgrades Tesla to 530. Okay, that's not helping Tessie today, but nice to see the upgrade. Getting a lot more of those $500 upgrades. LEU's up 10%. Centrus Energy, there you go, 255. Wow. Nuclear plays are really getting some love right here. They got to deal with South Korea. No, not LEU, the other one. Energy Fuels, that's up 10%. Again, these energy names continuing to show some excitement. By the way, the CoreWeave short float is 10%. 10% is CoreWeave short float. So maybe not enough for a squeeze, but could definitely be some potential covering here. Let's see what else we have. We talked about Nike. We have the Trump meeting at 1 p.m. Oh, we got John Williams right here from the Fed. Let's get his thoughts real quick on where he thinks interest rates are going.
Time as inflation ebbs, but is in no particular hurry to cut them, backing up market pricing for that January pause. Part of the reason, Williams supported the story we brought you here yesterday, that technical factors likely overstated the decline in the November inflation report.
The technical factors, one is, they only collected data in the second half of November when all the sales are on, and that's going to give you a bit of a downward bias. Also, there was some issues about the rent data and things like that. So it's hard to know, but definitely I took some positive signs from some of the categories that weren't as affected by that.
He said that distortion may only have been as much as 0.1 percentage point, but he still wants to see more data before committing to a change in rates. And David, his idea is.
All right, so Fed President William, pretty bullish as well, or relatively dovish. I mean, again, that's the trend. You just don't fight. Palantir 191, Hood 121, Google 304, NVIDIA once again trying to make a run back to 180. This would be the 9th time today that it retouches 180, and then Rocket Lab holding 65. CoreWeave right there, again, still up 17%. How much is Elon worth if SEX is valued at 1.5 trillion? What do we think this is the ticker symbol going to be? Is it really going to be SEX? That would be crazy. Elon gets, I think, an $720 billion net worth if SpaceX gets to 1.5 trillion. Actually, I think it's more than that. I think it's closer to 900 billion if SpaceX gets to 1.5 trillion. I don't think he would do SEX. I think I don't know. I think the institutional investor would be like, Elon, we love you, but please, can you not make us have to do this? SPCX, is there a ticker already with that? That might work. Yeah, there's already a SPAC called SPCX. The thing is, anyone who has that ticker, SpaceX will gladly buy it, and they have more than enough money to get the ticker they want. SPXE. We did not get PCE data today. It was delayed. I don't know why, but it was delayed. So we're not seeing PCE. But again, if it's bad, I don't even want to see it. Like, can we just get through Christmas? We'll deal with that shit in January, bro. This is the part of the year where everyone's just like, I don't care anymore. Whatever meetings or bad news I have to deal with or random stuff I need to resolve, I will deal with it next year. Do not want to deal with it in the last week and a half. The real question is, if SpaceX is worth 1.5 trillion, then what is Rocket Lab worth? That's a legitimate question here. I think that is a legitimate question. Coinbase up about 1.7 as well. CoreWeave was one of the companies named to help power the Department of Energy's Genesis mission. Yeah, but there was a lot of companies. There was 25 different companies. I don't think it's pumping 17% on just that. I feel like this is more of a, it got oversold. It was down with Oracle. Oracle's getting a nice 7% bump. So I mean, at that point, this is a little bit more evidence that CoreWeave follows Oracle. If it trades at a double delta to Oracle, and it was down 14 when Oracle was down 7, now it's up 14, that Oracle's up 7. Like the Genesis mission right now is just a headline. It's not even, we don't even know exactly what that's going to do. So I'm not sure if that's the only reason. SoFi still struggling because of PayPal. Again, the PayPal bank thing, I don't think it affects SoFi that much. But nonetheless, we're going to see how the market thinks about it. We have a TikTok headline. ByteDance is on pace for roughly 50 billion of profit in 2025 after about 40 billion of net income over the first 3 quarters. Wow. It had targeted 20% sales growth to 186 billion in 2025. So you had a decent level of profit for TikTok as that one continues to go. Okay, let's see. Okay, let's hear from Apollo and get their thoughts on who the Fed chair could be.
We'll have tailwinds from the one big beautiful bill. We'll also have tailwinds from the oil prices. We'll also have tailwinds from the dollar having gone down. So we're about to see a Nike swoosh where growth is going to accelerate. This is the consensus expectation. That's the Fed's expectation. That's our expectation. So the growth will get bigger and bigger as we go through this year. And as a result, when inflation is still already close to 3%, the risk to inflation still continue to be quite meaningful. So the bottom line is, I would be very reluctant with cutting interest rates in an environment where we have an economy that's beginning to accelerate, in particular because of the tailwind coming from the one big beautiful bill.
But what about the risk, sorry, Carl, of employment? I mean, we've been seeing numbers we have not seen in quite some time. I think we're at 4-year highs at least. Isn't that a concern to you? And we haven't even started to talk about the impact of AI that may really come to the fore in 2026.
Well, one very important reason why job growth has slowed in the last 6 months is because immigration has slowed. The last several years, net immigration into the US was around 3 million every year. The CBO is now forecasting that will be around 500,000 in the next 2 years. So in other words, we're seeing a fairly sharp slowdown. And as a result, the Dallas Fed has calculated that the new equilibrium rate for non-farm payrolls, which used to be 200,000 jobs created every month, is now down to 30,000 jobs every month. So a very important reason why job growth has slowed is indeed because immigration has slowed so much.
You did write this week that the Fed's biggest risk for next year is stagflation.
I still think that stagflation is the risk because there's still some headwinds coming, especially if AI does not deliver. There's a lot of things riding on AI continuing in 2026. The data center build out, of course, has added a lot to GDP growth. And we have also seen when stock prices go up that consumer spending, especially for the upper end of the K, in the K-shaped outlook, continue to still be very strong. But if AI does not deliver on earnings, especially also if we begin to see a slowdown in CapEx spending on the data center front going forward into the next several years, that will indeed begin to raise some risks about downside to growth coming from the number one risk, namely AI rollout.
But it wouldn't take prices down with it?
No, because AI on its own is only about, if you think about data center construction, it's only about 4% of GDP. So that's why given 60% of GDP is services, and we have now had the service sector inflation has been relatively stable. Yes, it's true that rents are pulling lower, but ISM services prices paid has really been going up. So there's a lot of different forces in inflation, and the data here that came out this week was somewhat confusing, to be honest. But the bottom line is, in the next 6 months, and especially when we get to April, we'll begin to see some fairly meaningful risk that inflation is still going to be elevated. And that's exactly why the FOMC members are so split on this issue. What should we do in an environment where, yes, maybe the labor market is a bit weaker because of labor demand, but given inflation is still very sticky and now is at risk of going up over the next 6 months, then the key issue for the FOMC becomes, can we even cut in that environment? That's why the only dot, of course, in the dot plot, the only cut we have is one cut here, of course, in 2026.
If AI does deliver, is there a risk that could be deflationary, especially given, we've seen these data center build out. It doesn't really require a lot of people once you have it built to operate it. It's not a big jobs creator. And then AI, so far we haven't meaningfully seen any replacement due to AI, but could that shift in 2026 and cause the labor market picture to deteriorate further from there? Could it impact GDP if you start to see that really impacting the labor market and consumption?
Absolutely. This is extremely important. And there are three places to look for whether this is playing out. First, you have to look at productivity outside the Magnificent Seven. In other words, what's productivity for the S&P 493? Are they actually becoming more productive? Second thing, earnings for the S&P 493 also becomes critical as we go through 2026. Can they actually deliver earnings outside the Magnificent Seven in a way where it looks like these productivity gains are here? And finally, we also have to look very carefully at why the unemployment rate is going up. Is it exactly as you're saying, the risk that this is because of AI, or is this just because the business cycle is slowing? If we succeed wildly with AI creating massive increases in productivity across the economy, it will start to create a whole new problem, namely disruption in the S&P 493, where therefore they will be laying off massive amount of workers and therefore a very significant increase in the unemployment rate. So it's
And again, that argument that AI is going to lead to unemployment, we haven't talked about it in a couple of weeks, but back in October, that was the big headline because Amazon had laid off 30,000 people. I mean, I just feel like that's a risk you can't even prep for. If AI becomes that good, and his argument is we shouldn't even cut rates because the economy is running so hot. But then again, CPI coming low enough maybe is the reason we would cut rates. But like, if AI actually leads to that massive job loss, I don't know how the stock market would react to it. My gut tells me if you own assets, you're going to benefit from that situation. But it's hard to be sure if it creates that massive level of layoffs in the economy. Who talks faster, him or you? He actually talks pretty fast. For being on live TV, he talks pretty freaking fast. 478 on Tesla, once again losing 480. That was not even sped up, bro. That was live. So that is how he talks. Yeah, the Sham Sanker clip is actually a really good one on this. Let me actually pull that up because Sham is, Palantir's entire argument is that the jobs are going to be enhanced for the blue collar worker with AI. This is basically a response to Bernie Sanders, which, by the way, Bernie responded to Elon last night. We got to watch that. But this is what Sham had to say yesterday about the whole job argument.
To what you can see how it's transforming the work of classically white collar workers. But I think the story that's really underreported is how AI is a blue collar revolution. It is the frontline factory worker. It is the ICU nurse who has more time to spend with their patients, delivering life-saving care where minutes actually matter, less time munging and collecting the information on the patient. It is the manufacturing line where the foreman has to spend less time doing the production planning and the labor scheduling, more time actually building parts. And I think the key narrative violation that the Vanguard study really shows is not only are these workers more productive, these companies are able to hire more. I'll give you one example. We have a manufacturing customer that because they were able to streamline their production planning with AI, they were able to add a third shift. Without that labor utilization being at a certain rate, it wasn't profitable to hire more American workers. With it, more jobs are created. Or we look at Panasonic Energy. They're in Reno, Nevada. They build electric vehicle batteries. The apprenticeship to become a skilled battery technician for this sort of equipment is 3 years. With AI, they've been able to take prior casino workers and gainfully employ them successfully in 3 months. This is creating American jobs. And I think the root of this doomerism, first of all, it's a complete propaganda shtick coming out of Silicon Valley, where they want to talk about how powerful the tech is. It's so powerful, it might lead to mass unemployment. It's so powerful, it might end humanity. And that's just frankly not true. It's not what you see at the front lines. What you see is an opportunity for American greatness.
What do we think? Do people agree? Do we think the argument that AI is going to take away jobs is propaganda from people that hate tech, and as a result, they are trying to deaccelerate the tech progress, which is essentially what Elon's or Bernie Sanders' critique of Elon is be? Or are people genuinely concerned that these jobs are going away and they're not coming back? Bernie last night said, yes, Elon, I do lack any sense of adventure when that adventure will, as you have made clear, force tens of millions of workers out of their jobs. The goal of AI and robotics must be to improve life for all people, not just to make you and your fellow oligarchs even richer. I mean, I think this is going to be a debate that goes on for the next few years in a pretty aggressive fashion. Because the problem is, if people, like, again, the way that Shyam Sankar ends up being proven correctly is by people not losing their jobs. It's just that simple. It's literally that simple. If people don't lose their jobs, you can't have this complaint, because people will have their jobs. So they can't say, hey, I took my job. If people do start losing their jobs at scale, then although there will be some level of effective agency empowerment in certain parts of the economy via AI, as he was talking about, if it's not enough to match the net loss of jobs, which again, it's yet to see if that actually going to happen, then there's going to be a revolt. I mean, like, people are not going to be okay, especially if they don't own any stock in the companies that are replacing their jobs, which is what Vlad was talking about yesterday, about how, you need to give young people a feeling as if they have a chance in the game. And I think it's going to be a story that needs a couple years to play out before we fully understand what's happening or not. Yeah, a lot of you guys, even in the chat, are 50-50. Some people say, yes, we're already seeing AI take jobs near where I live. The thing that makes this complicated is that Elon's saying money doesn't matter, which is kind of strategic on his part, because you're worth so much money to kind of push back against being worth so much and having so much wealth inequality. You're like, well, money doesn't even matter. It's basically like I'm worth zero because everyone's going to be rich. So that is one psychological way to put that I think he's using to push back against the narrative. But when you say money doesn't matter and working is optional, it kind of is implying that you're agreeing that, yes, all jobs will be eliminated to an extent. And that kind of proves Bernie Sanders' point. But it might not be a bad thing, is Elon's argument. It's just, does anyone really believe people losing their jobs is not a bad thing? Because the intuitive argument is like, yeah, that's not going to be the best for humanity, unless money doesn't actually matter, because then you don't have to earn money. So you don't technically need the job, since most people work to pay their bills. But that begs the question, is Elon going to be right about money not mattering? This is what Vlad said yesterday about the capitalism crisis we might be facing as well.
There's a lot of chatter on Trump accounts for kids, where the government seeds investment accounts with $1,000 for children as part of the One Big Beautiful Bill. Are you still positioning yourself for consideration? Have you heard who else might be in the running?
Yeah, well, I've spoken to the president and obviously the government about this personally. And basically, while we can't give you the details of what we're involved in or what we're talking about, I think this is incredibly important. I think we have a huge risk in this country of people not believing in the free markets and in the financial system because they don't have skin in the game. I think it's especially a problem now when we're in this massive wave of AI-driven disruption. So, you're seeing AI products being adopted at an accelerating rate, but at the same time, AI being generally unpopular because people are pretty worried about what impact it's going to have on them and their jobs. And I think the best way to actually counteract this is from an early age, give people a stake in what's being built in the great industries of this country. So I think it's a great initiative, and we've assured them that we're standing ready to help in the maximal way possible.
I think he's right. People got to feel they have a stake in the game. And I am also worried about that because, dude, it's like we know as much as people are now caring about investing, it's still relatively not that important to the majority of people. So, like, yes, there's been a 100x increase since 2020 of people that care about it, but the far majority of people still don't really care that much. If they did, the capital markets would get even more liquid. And if they don't care and then they lose their job, that's when you see the narrative shift pretty aggressively. I mean, we'll find out in a couple of years. It will be, there's plenty of evidence on both sides of this argument around job loss or job gain. But once you get a trend over a couple of years, it'll be pretty evident on what's happening. Nebius right there up 11%. Palantir lost 192, but still holding 190. Google at 305 as well. The internet took jobs. Yeah, the internet took jobs, but man, did the internet help democratize access to information, which ended up creating a lot more jobs than it took. It's just the internet wasn't intelligent. Like, the internet empowered people that were intelligent to use it to access the masses. I guess it's a different world when you don't need to access the masses because the intelligence does it for you. But is that net bad on jobs? That is the broader question. Lemonade, that one up a little bit. Or is that red? No, it's red, down 1%. S&P once again trying to go for 680. But not really showing that momentum above it yet. Dude, Vlad has a new hairstyle every other week. Every time we see him live, it's literally new hair. His hair grows fast too, dude. In March, his hair was down to his neck. It was crazy. And then a month later, he was at the White House with a buzz cut. Not a buzz cut, not a literal buzz cut, but it looked like he had cut most of it off. Everyone is a TikTok star for employment. That's the other thing. Not everyone can just do something creative. And it's not easy to make money when you're doing something creative. That's why most creatives struggle. So we've got to be able to protect jobs and protect the current way of life that we have for those jobs. Now, again, a lot of white collar jobs, one could argue those are kind of creative, but that type of creativity doesn't, if you can sing really well and get your songs out there, that creativity gets a premium. If you're creative at making PowerPoints, which there is a level of creativity that comes to making a really good slide deck, that shit's getting automated. And that begs the question then, well, does your consulting job really require the type of effort that you're putting in, right? So I think that's the nuance over the next 5 years that we're all going to try to go back and forth to understand. Did you see the Matt Money thing? Yes. Dude, is he, I don't want to call him if he's at work right now, but we have to get an update on how that shit happened. For those that don't know, Matt was on the White House website today. You know what happened? I think Chris fell asleep and they were trying to do Cash Flow Chronicles. And Matt was just like, all right, I'm just going to go live myself if Chris is not awake. If Chris was awake and this happened, they both would have been on the White House website. So Chris's sleep stopped him from being in front of the country, dude. That's so cool. That is so freaking cool. You have a little clip right here from Steve Quirk at Hood about prediction markets.
It will be more than 10%. Yes, it'll evolve. Yes.
50%, 3 years from now of revenue.
Oh, How
Yeah,
high
I
do we
don't. I don't know if I can project
20,
that.
30?
Yeah. Yep. Well, here, I'll give you the counter. It's a very fast moving business, but we also are in a lot of other businesses that are growing quite rapidly. So, as quickly as this grows, we have other ones that are growing equally as fast. Well, not equally as fast. I shouldn't say that. This one is one of the quickest, but other ones that are growing at a pace. So it would be probably a stretch to say it's going to be 50% of our revenue.
Could you imagine if prediction markets are 50%? That'd be like 1.8 billion a year. I don't know if they ramp up that quick, but the product is definitely going to be a big part of the revenue over the coming years. So they continue to be bullish on it. And then DraftKings officially unveiled their prediction market today. Meta still red, Amazon slightly green, Rocket Lab holding its 9%, Palantir just above 190, Robinhood holding 120, and then Nvidia 178. Someone at the White House definitely watches Matt's channel. I agree. Dude, there's probably some White House interns that were looking through like news and they happened to find a live stream of a guy talking about the markets. And boom, they put him up there. Matt is the official streamer of the current administration. Oh my gosh. Where's VG? VG 621 up 2.4. What is everyone doing over the weekend? It's the weekend before Christmas. Guys, I won't do the Sunday show. It's actually my mom's birthday on Monday. So Sunday we are having a get together at our house. So I will not be here on Sunday for the future show. But I'll be back Monday. Outside of that, not doing anything too crazy. Oh yeah, Avatar 3 is out. Are you streaming next week? Okay, so let's look at the schedule. Is the stock market open on Christmas Eve? Close early. Okay, so obviously Christmas not streaming. Christmas Eve probably will stream. That'll be a half day. Friday, we are open, right? We're open Monday and Tuesday as normal. So Monday and Tuesday is fine. Yeah, I think I'll be streaming. The only day I'm missing is Thursday. It's Christmas. That's it. Yeah, so yeah, we should be fine next week. And then the week after that, we're right back to normal. So outside of New Year's, is the stock market open on New Year's Eve? Definitely not on New Year's Day, right? Is open for regular hours. Yeah, okay, so we're missing the Christmas and New Year's. That's it. New Year's is a Thursday, and Christmas is also a Thursday. So Friday, I think I'll be live Friday. Friday, I mean, yeah, I'll probably be doing it from home, but Friday, yeah, it should be just Christmas. Shouldn't be anything too crazy. New Year's, I mean, I gotta see, dude. I might have something with family. If not, I'll be probably with Steve. I just have to see. I think I should be with Steve. I just have to confirm. Well, we should be there for New Year's. No volume over holidays. Yeah, probably not gonna have tons and tons of volume. We'll see if there's any crazy headlines. Well, 26 is supposed to start this this Santa Claus rally theoretically, so maybe we'll see if there's any action there. But if not, we'll just see. By the way, Netflix, massive deal right here with Charlemagne. 200 million 5 years. Wow. 200 million 5 years with iHeartMedia, but that leads to Netflix getting the exclusive home of The Breakfast Club. That's crazy. 200 million 5 years. That's a big, yeah, Charlemagne the God, 40 million a year. Again, Netflix is having to, I mean, this is not literally Netflix paying it, but I'm sure they're definitely subsidizing a chunk of that for The Breakfast Club. They're going to have to pay for creators. It's just that simple. Like when people get bored of Stranger Things, they need something else to watch. Trump administration announces that they will not be complying with today's deadline to release the full Epstein files. They insist the files will be released in the next couple weeks. Okay. I think I speak on behalf of everybody saying no one is surprised about that. I guess whoever voted on Polymarket that we would get the Epstein files today, that shit just went to zero. Yeah, that's down right now. I'm looking at it. Now, the House subcommittee did release a bunch of stuff over the past couple of days, but a lot of it's redacted. A lot of photos with Bill Gates, a lot of photos with Steve Bannon. Dude, you know who surprised me the most? This one I didn't expect. This one, some of you guys might not know this guy, but some of you, I mean, he's been around long enough for some of you. I really didn't expect this photo. And this just goes to show me you can't trust anything in this world. Noam freaking Chomsky on the private jet with Epstein. For those that don't know Noam Chomsky, he's 94 years old. He's deemed as one of the leading critical thinkers of our time in critiquing postmodern capitalism, in critiquing colonialism, in critiquing the sort of structure of oppression that embodies itself through Western imperialism. Like, if none of those words make sense, the point is he complains about why the world is the way it is. For him, like for him to be involved in this shit is wild. I did not expect Chomsky to be there. I'm just like, damn, how many guys did Epstein, like how many freaking connections did this guy make? And now, I mean, there is, I really think it's naive to assume whoever had a role in getting him killed, it wasn't him just choosing to off himself. I mean, it really does seem like there was way too many special interests that gave the signal to get rid of this guy. Like, at this point, seeing these many different connections. Noam Chomsky would be the type of person you think would never associate with that, because Epstein's, I don't know if he was a billionaire, but he was emblematic of the billionaire class, right? Elite, private connections, all this stuff. Noam's entire career was critiquing that idea, critiquing the concept of private property in and of itself. Like, this guy, I don't know if you want to say he's a full-on communist or socialist, but like ideologically, he's much closer to a Marxist than not. And then he's on a private jet. Like, forget even that he's with Epstein. He's on this is why when people critique capitalism, they end up contradicting themselves, because they benefit from all the merits of capitalism. Private jets are pretty capitalist. And then he's with Epstein. And then the response will be, oh, he was raising money for his foundation. I'm like, bro, you couldn't raise money from someone who wasn't a sex offender? Like, there's a lot of people that have money. Like, this was the one guy, Epstein, that had all the money in the world somehow. Like, he was the guy to get the money. Like, it's crazy. Absolutely freaking crazy. All right, what else do we have? I think, are we done for the day? It's 11 a.m. They were talking about philosophy. Goodness. Is the move fading? It's not really fading. I mean, like, there's not, we're flat. We're not pushing all-time high. We're not having momentum up. We're not seeing the drawdown we usually see after a big move. So it kind of feels like if this is a 2-3% day on individual stocks, it'll hold. Obviously, Rocket Lab getting that 9%. Unless we get some headline that takes us down, but I think we maybe hold this year. VIX is dropping. That's good. Agreed. SPY is only good enough for 679. Yeah, if we can at least hold 679, that'd be nice. You just say done for the morning, not done for the day. Yes, you were right. I mean, done for the morning. Trump is live with Matt Money. You know, usually I don't believe the Trump is live comments you guys put in the chat, but you have to think twice about that one. You can't just say, oh, that's a troll. I mean, Matt Money has a certain level of prestige now with the administration. It's kind of crazy, dude. That's so crazy he got on the website. Like literally, that's the first thing I saw when I woke up. And then literally, as I'm like looking at the tweet, Steve calls me. I'm like, Steve, you seen this shit? He was like, yeah, I seen it. And I was like, oh, hold on, he's in the chat. Matt, we need to get you to call my plan to pump Rocket Lab work. All right, Matt, I'm calling you right now because we need to know the inside scoop here. He might not be able to pick up, dude. He might be with Donnie T. He might not be able to actually tell us anything about this.
What's going on, dude?
Matt, I'm so happy you were able to actually pick up my phone call. I know you've elevated your life.
I'm charging by the second. I'm charging by the second.
Are you charging by this? Okay, so hopefully I can get you. I can get you for at least like 120 seconds. So I just want to know, like how, like, is Barron a good friend? I mean, how did you get to be in front of the American public from the White House?
I think that they messed up. They were trying to stream your market close yesterday, and they accidentally clicked on mine. I bet this intern is pissed, and they're probably fired. They were like, we wanted a Mitt, and we got Matt Money? Who's this guy?
Okay, in all seriousness, do you have any idea how this happened, or?
I just wanted to stream with. I wanted to do Cash Flow Chronicles with Chris last night. Chris overslept because he messaged me, and we're doing Cash Flow Chronicles. Half an hour later, I sent him the link, and I think at that point he was probably already zoned out and asleep. And Steve was ending his stream, and I was like, well, I'm not going to let these people. There was like 50 people waiting for me to start Cash Flow Chronicles. I was like, I got to do something. And apparently, also the White House was in the chat and waiting. But yeah, how crazy is that, man?
So I'm on the live news link right now in the White House. This is where they stream Trump talking all the time. Somehow they got your link and embedded it on the website.
I thought somebody was pulling my leg, and then Chris called me at 3 a.m. and I was like, holy shit, that was real? Okay, got it. Yeah.
Your story feels a little too sus. I feel like there's something deeper you're not telling us.
Dude, I know. I already talked to Bloomberg this morning. So I'm curious what they're going to do with that. I wasn't on stream or anything like that, but I don't know if they're going to, some lady from the UK was writing down a bunch of notes and
dude, they're doing a whole story on this. It's that big.
I have no idea. It was like a 5-minute phone call. It wasn't anything crazy. And then AP at 10 a.m. Eastern, so I just finished up that 10 a.m. and then a guy from AP reached out to see if we could chat. So I'm going to call him after I get off the phone with you.
I think I agree with Cheesehead in the chat. Maybe you sent the link to Cash Patel instead of Chris Patel.
Yeah, that's hysterical.
The best thing about this is the comments we're going to get probably for the next month on this situation are going to be the best comments in the world.
Well, Steve called me. He was like, dude, what the hell is going on? And I was like, I have no idea. And then he was just like, you can't use that you think you're better than me line now, because he was like, my rebuttal is always just going to be, I'm not the one that was streaming on the White House government website.
Oh, 100%. Every time you use that, be like, well, I wasn't on the White House website, so I don't know how to tell you.
Chris called me just absolutely cracking up yesterday. Like, imagine he's just in the middle of his workday and it's 4 a.m. Georgia time. And he's like, what is this? Why is Matt on Bloomberg? And I've always wanted to be on Bloomberg. I see my buddy Amit Kukureja on Bloomberg, getting and showing off, CEO of AK Media. And I'm like, yeah, that'll be me one day. And didn't think it would happen under these circumstances, but here we are.
Dude, the time I gave Steve a link, the fact that that's on, that is just so...
Because Steve keeps being like, Matt, let's stream. And then he refuses to give me the link until 2 minutes beforehand. And so I've just been trolling him for my past couple live streams that I've done with him. And then, yeah, that's the one that I sent to Steve. How funny is that?
And then you got Carp in the background. Like, you really...
You got Carp. I'm upset because the other day, I need to hang those pictures T-shirts rather, and I had one of Sir Peter Beck right next to Carp, and unfortunately, I took it down literally like 2 days ago because I was gonna start hanging them up. So you would have had Carp and Sir Peter Beck hanging out right there, but side by side. But
dude, you made it. You made it out the hood. You made it.
I'm just trying to keep up with you, man. Not everyone has that stamina. You know, I have to be more strategic. I have to hack the White House government websites. They said that. They're like, we don't know if this was a hack. I'm like, dude, I don't know anything about it.
Yeah, because now the journalists are probably like, wait a second, there's got to be something deeper here. And you're like, bro, I was doing a live stream with my friend. Like, there's nothing that deep.
And you won't get demonetized for this. Open up the first 20 seconds of my stream. It's my Cashflow Chronicles intro. And that's what, hopefully, I bet people were like, ooh, a live stream from the White House. It's like, this is my quant from Ryan Gosling, and then all the different clips from Wolf of Wall Street. The people are probably like, what is this? This isn't Trump going live.
All right, let me play this. This is what international journalists across the world had to witness last night live when they got the notification that the White House has a new live breaking news on their website.
That's my quant.
Your what?
My quantitative. You show me a pay stub for $72,000 on it, I quit my job right now and I work for you.
Let's do it.
Be smarter or cheat.
I'm not fucking. First, be smarter, cheat, Steven.
Sell it all today.
Look at this thing. It's beautiful.
Welcome to the fucking show.
We have a great old treat for you. We have a great old treat.
Dude, you can't make this shit up, man.
No, because when the White House goes live, people across the world, because they always need to know what is Trump saying, and they see two guys pop up after a Wolf of Wall Street clip. Like, that is crazy, bro.
You can't write this shit, bro. You can't write it. How funny is that? You just see me and the milkman just up on stream.
Oh, man. I love it. This is so awesome. It was great. It's so fun for the community too, dude, to see stuff like that. Like, it's just so, because, we get to see you every day and interact with you, and to see that type of thing happen is just so dope.
I wish I could be like, yeah, I hacked the government. I wouldn't know the first thing to do.
Yeah.
Apparently, you just need a message or have fans in the press office.
Yeah, well, that also helps. Yeah. All right. Well, good stuff. Matt Money's YouTube, I put right there in the chat. At least we now have the unofficial explanation of how this happened. I feel like there's still something deeper to the story that Matt's not telling us, but at least we got.
They did ask me. They're like, "Do you support Donald Trump?" And I was like, "Oh fuck."
I'm not answering that. I mean, it's hard to answer that, right?
I needed coaching before I answered this phone call, and then they were like, I was just like, yeah, had I known, I would have dressed better. I would have probably not talked about personal finance. I would have gave an actual message to the world. And she's like, what message would you have given to the world? I'm like, fuck, I don't know. I was like, I didn't plan for this. Like, you called me. I'm still in bed. Like, I don't know.
Dude, because the thing is, if you say you support Trump, then they start going down the rabbit hole of like what's happening. It's like it gets so dicey with them.
Yeah, I think, did she ask me if she was like, do you support the MAGA movement? I was like, oh my God. I was like, I'm a believer in America. I like what America is doing, or something like that. I'm curious how they spin it. We'll see.
All right. Well, this is great for all of us. This was awesome. So happy for you. This is fun stuff. Maybe if it happens again, then I don't believe anything you said today. If it happens again.
Yeah, you're like, this guy is straight up hacking. I don't know how he's doing it, but he's getting up there.
No.
So maybe some person in the White House is going to troll, and it's you next. Your market close is going to stream. I don't know.
It'd be crazy. Absolutely crazy. Matt Money's Twitter right there in the chat. You can follow him there. Thank you, Matt. Appreciate you letting us know.
Thank you, brother. Have a good rest of the stream, and I'll watch you this afternoon.
All right. Later.
Cheers, man. Bye.
It's wild. Well, while Matt was talking, we are trying to make intraday highs. Rocket Lab literally going to the moon. 66. SoFi 2690. Let's see. Can she break 27 today? Oracle 193. That's a high of it. Well, 194 was high. It's getting close. Nvidia, once again, just below 180. Tesla's still not able to hold up. 479. Hoodie almost 122. Nebius. Wow, 12% on Nebius, bro. Anyone who bought the dip yesterday, up 12%. This is what I mean by like the nature of high beta. I mean, people go a year hoping they can get 10% on the S&P 500. And if you bought the dip on Nebius yesterday, you're up 12%. If you bought the dip on a day later, if you bought the dip on Rocket Lab, you're up 10% a day later. This is why high beta is so attractive. A year to wait for 12% on the S&P, I can get 10% in a day in Rocket Lab. But you could also get 10% down in a day. And this is sort of the volatility you have to be able to stomach, up or down. But these names have the ability to make those moves. Ondas, this stock just been an incredible year for this thing. 13%. CEO did buy more shares, which is always bullish. And so you're seeing some more momentum there on a lot of these names. APLD, is that moving up? Again, a lot of the data center names, again, they're all going to move together. Applied Digital was down 14% on Tuesday. It's up 12% today. Like, you really just got to be able to not be too upset when they go down, because you know when they reverse, they reverse. And so you're seeing all the data center plays. Iran probably up 7% here. Iran up 8% as it's getting some grain. All right, folks, that is it for me. I will be live on the close. I'll see if I can get Matt and Steve on. Maybe Steve and I can interrogate Matt a little bit more about how he did what he did, because I still don't think he's telling the truth. And then we will end out this Friday. And we'll be done for the week. TE, this is another name that's getting some love. Yeah, big bounce on that today. You're seeing a lot of different sectors cooperate. Looking at the heat map right here as well. The only thing that's really down in tech is honestly Tesla, Apple, Adobe, and Uber. Everything else in tech is holding up. There you go. That's your heat map. All right, word of the day. What do we got? Okay, let me see. Okay, word of the day. Liminal. Liminal refers to being in an in-between state, on the threshold of something new or change and possibility are unfolding. There's something kind of liminal about nights like this, when you're not rushing anywhere, just letting the moment become whatever it wants to be. Refers to I think it means living in the moment, on the threshold of something new where change and possibility are unfolding. Okay, so well, Matt was definitely living in the moment last night and being liminal as he was being streamed in front of the entire press world of the White House media. Because that's the thing, even if random people don't watch the White House website, I don't know anyone who actually goes to the White House website and watched it, the journalists, they have a notification every time because they have to report on what the administration says. And then we're talking about international press, not just American press. So that's why it's funny, because Matt got the the Wolf of Wall Street open, and then two guys pop up on the stream internationally to all these people. Absolutely wild. Absolutely crazy. All right, that's it. I'll be back on the close. If I don't see people on the close, hopefully everyone has a good weekend. I will not be here on Sunday, but we'll be back on Monday. Only thing we're missing next week is Christmas. So besides that, should be a relatively simple week, even if the volumes are low. We have quad witching today, so if we get a rug pull, just remember that could be a lot to do with options. If we hold out this momentum, then it would be nice to end out Friday like that. What did Matt say on the stream? Well, I'll link the video. I mean, they spent 2 hours talking about probably the stock market. And so I guess those journalists got to see that. And maybe this is the Santa Claus rally, or maybe this is a little bit of the start to it. CPI definitely gave a good foundation. You had really good Oracle headlines last night. Openai raising money definitely is beneficial for the broader AI trade. And hopefully that can continue throughout the end of the year. All right. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. Thank you all for being here. We'll see you guys when the market close. And if not, have a great weekend. And we'll be back Monday for the market open. Thank you, everybody. See you guys tonight. Have a good one.